Chapter 1761. Han Fei slightly frowned. He didn't know it until he activated the Apocalypse Divine Technique. He discovered that Xia Xiaochan still had a stubborn disease in her body after activating the Apocalypse Divine Technique. It seemed that she had been seriously injured before, so when the Heavenly Awakening Divine Technique broke out, she felt so comfortable, as if she were immersed in a hot spring. After the brilliance of the Apocalypse Divine Technique disappeared, Xia Xiaochan grabbed Han Fei's arm the moment she landed. What kind of healing technique was that? Is a spirit gatherer's healing technique so powerful? Han Fei, on the other hand, frowned and asked back, "What happened to your internal injuries? Didn't you say that you've been cultivating all day for the past 20 years? How could you have such a serious injury?" Really? The hexagon starfish said, "I know. 8 years ago, you sneaked out and ended up being targeted by someone. You were almost killed by that person with a single blow. Fortunately, the fierce king came, or we would have been dead." Han Fei was confused. "The fierce king?" Xia Xiaochan said in disgust. "That's Chun Huangdian. He yells at me every day. Sooner or later, I'll beat the crap out of him." Han Fei thought to himself, it seems that, after learning Xia Xiaochan's identity, he didn't respect her at all. It's only natural that he would yell at her. As for the people who attacked Xia Xiaochan when she snuck out, they must be in cahoots with these people today. Han Fei said, "Chun Huangdian must be beaten. That old bastard killed me once. I won't be able to forgive myself if I don't avenge him. However, our top priority is to kill another group of people first." Xia Xiaochan asked, "Who?" Han Fei said coldly, "Everyone from the investiture heaven must die. The king of the investiture heaven may have become someone else's puppet. The people who hunted you this time are all from the investiture heaven. These people were all peak-level venerables before they came in, but they all became half-kings after they came in. They must have hidden their strength with some kind of great technique. We've only met 10 people so far. If I remember correctly, there should be 28 of them." Xia Xiaochan was shocked. "The investiture heaven? The people who want to kill me are from the investiture heaven?" Han Fei nodded. "I saw from that man's memory that the king of the gods' investiture heaven issued a kill order in person. They're not here to look for the key at all. They're here to hunt you down and kill you." Hiss, Master Hexagon Starfish's 6 big eyes rolled. "Then what should I do? Only 10 people have died. Doesn't that mean there are close to 20.5 monarchs?" Even Xia Xiaochan was stunned. All the experts of the Godsbane heaven were here to kill him? Could it be that the dignified immortal palace was also controlled by that person? Han Fei was shocked too. If it was a hunting order from the king himself, what was Xia Xiaochan's real identity? There was a reason why so many experts wanted to kill her, right? However, the current environment was clearly not suitable for telling stories. Han Fei stepped on the ground and the phantoms of mountains and rivers appeared. Han Fei said, "Don't resist. Let's go to another small world." After a while. When Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish came to the sea-quelling painting, Xia Xiaochan said in surprise, "Is this floating island?" The hexagon starfish exclaimed, "Huh! The spiritual energy here is so thin. It's uncomfortable." With a thought from Han Fei, the hexagon starfish disappeared. But in the sky, the sound lingered. Han Fei's voice sounded leisurely, "Master Hexagon Starfish, I'm not joking with you. If you don't make a breakthrough within a month, I'll help you make a breakthrough myself." But the starfish doesn't want to practice. Xia Xiaochan blushed slightly. Actually, the big starfish has been doing well these years. Han Fei didn't believe her. He's been overnourished. Not bad? It's just that his life is too comfortable. Someone has to exercise his muscles and bones. The floating island in the sea-quelling painting was no longer the one that was blown out of shape during the war. Now, after many years of reproduction, it was beautiful and lush, but Han Fei usually didn't come here. When the noise of the starfish was gone, the two came to the land with fresh air from the turbulent bottom of the sea. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan finally looked at each other and could have a good chat. However, how could they talk in this situation? Just now, the battle was urgent, and both of them were still worried. Now, they were relaxed. Han Fei saw Xia Xiaochan's eyelashes trembling slightly, her cheeks blushing, and he could hear Xia Xiaochan's heartbeat. When Xia Xiaochan was a child, she was born with the ability of charm. Now that she was so big, her charm was much stronger than when she was a child. At this time, Han Fei also changed from Fan Dadong to his original appearance. His own heart was also beating wildly, and his throat was a little dry. As the saying went, the heavenly thunder touched the earthly fire. They hadn't seen each other for many years, and the two had been longing for each other for a long time. How could they hold back? Han Fei hugged Xia Xiaochan's waist, and their lips and teeth entwined. His long-cherished wish of many years had been fulfilled, and Xia Xiaochan was no longer the little girl who didn't know anything. Han Fei had taught her a lot in the past. Now at this time, the strength of the peak-level venerable had long been forgotten. His clothes were torn and the seasons changed. Heaven and earth were his seats, and the clouds and rain were tumbling. Half a day later, Han Fei lay on the grass with his arms spread wide. Xia Xiaochan lay beside him, holding her chin with her hands, gently patting the grass with her calves and feet, and looked at Han Fei with her head tilted. At this moment, Han Fei was talking with fervor and assurance. At that time, it was really a critical moment. I blocked a king alone. What could I do? Behind me were the 4 major races and billions of creatures. I had to block them even if I couldn't. Fortunately, I learned the time art from the Chu sect. In the end, I could fight against a king. Han Fei was bragging about his glorious deeds. From Xia Xiaochan's departure until he snatched the sea-quelling painting, passed the explorer stage, became a venerable, and became a half-king. Of course, Han Fei didn't say everything in detail. For example, Han Fei didn't mention the part about the ideal palace. He only mentioned that after entering the ideal palace, there was no memory. There were also some secrets, such as the demon purification pot, which Han Fei naturally didn't mention. The most important thing was that Han Fei hadn't figured it out yet. Xia Xiaochan listened with relish on the side. Sometimes she was nervous, sometimes she was cheerful, and sometimes she didn't even dare to breathe. As she listened, she couldn't help but burst into tears and lay on Han Fei's body several times. Of course, she knew that no matter how simple Han Fei's description was, it was very difficult at that time. What kind of law enforcer attacked a venerable? That was something only a lunatic would do. He was forced to hide his identity for many years. With Han Fei's character, how forced must he be? Why did he choose to compromise like this? He defeated so many venerables in the Thousand-Star City alone. That was even more shocking. What was the density of spiritual energy in the Yin-Yang heaven? She knew very well. She also knew that even Xue Shenqi, the supreme commander of the Scattered Stars Island, was just an explorer. Han Fei had even confronted the Tao of Time head-on and killed him. Not to mention that Han Fei fought against a real king as a half-king. If it were anyone else, they would have been dead. Xia Xiaochan had never heard of a venerable who could fight a half-king, even in the mermaid royal family. So, the more relaxed Han Fei was, the more she knew how hard it was. Han Fei tilted his head and said, "What about you? Who is it that wants to kill you? Why was your identity exposed when the heavenly cicada was born?" Xia Xiaochan heaved a long sigh. Chen Huangdian said that it was my father who wanted to kill me because I awakened the heavenly cicada, which revealed their bloodline. It seems that those people attach great importance to bloodlines. Because of this, my mother fought a great battle with the experts of their clan and is still in a deep sleep to this day. As she spoke, there was anger in Xia Xiaochan's eyes. If one day in the future, when I open the sea and the sky, I will sweep the Yin family to the ground. I will make the heavenly cicada bloodline that they are so proud of disappear from the sea. Han Fei frowned. And family? You even know the surname of their family? Where did you learn it? Xia Xiaochan shook her head. Chen Huangdian said that. He said that the Yin family's forces are still outside the chaotic ocean. However, they can already infiltrate the chaotic ocean. Hiss! Han Fei couldn't help but sit up. They're still outside the chaotic ocean? Isn't it said that the chaotic ocean can only be crossed from the east? If someone can come in, Wouldn't he be able to kill his way to the mermaid royal family if he's strong enough? Xia Xiaochan couldn't help but shake her head. But there's a conclusion about this in the family. It seems that they can only come in a certain way, but they can't come here directly. These people are from the investiture of God's heaven, but the investiture of God's heaven is one of the 36 mysterious heavens. By logic, it shouldn't be in contact with the outside world. So, they may have influenced the investiture of God's heaven in some way. Han Fei's heart sank. He thought that the 36 mysterious heavens were already strong enough. There were a lot of kings here, and the martial emperor city could even suppress the chaotic ocean. Han Fei didn't believe that there weren't any emperors here. Now, as far as he knew from Xia Xiaochan, they were outside the chaotic ocean. They even knew the existence of the chaotic ocean, but since they knew the existence of the chaotic ocean, they couldn't come in? Could it be that the 36 mysterious heavens was also a super-secret realm equivalent to the Savage Abyss? However, if that was the case, then this doll game was too powerful, wasn't it? How large was the area? Han Fei couldn't help but think of what his mother said. I want to integrate the 36 mysterious heavens and rule this chaotic ocean. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. Even if I really rule this place in the end, I'm afraid there will still be greater crises waiting for me. Chapter 1762. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan hadn't seen each other for years and had a lot to talk about. After Han Fei finished, Xia Xiaochan told him how she was abused. She couldn't eat any food or seasoning. She was thrown into the abyss to fight against behemoths, and she was thrown into the mist to survive alone. In fact, the happiest days of his life were when Chen Huangdian threw him to the pirate crew and fought against the pirates of other families. Han Fei asked in surprise, "You've been to a pirate group? Do you mean the mermaid pirates?" Xia Xiaochan nodded. Yes. The mermaid pirates were sent out by the mermaid capital city to collect information. After all, the martial emperor city is the safest place in the chaotic ocean. The martial emperor city is the safest place in the chaotic ocean, apart from the main bases of the major forces. Xia Xiaochan said with mixed feelings, "It was exactly because I stayed in the mermaid pirates that my sister sent me a message, saying that there was a new force outside of the top 10 pirate groups named the Avengers, whose captain is Han Fei." As she spoke, Xia Xiaochan put her arms around Han Fei's neck without any scruples. "I thought it was you, and I wanted to find you. But Chen Huangdian, that bastard, said that if I ran away again, he would lock me up for 100 years after I was caught." "Asshole!" Han Fei snorted. "I'm definitely going to beat that old man up. He's too much. My wife is a princess, and she has to be bullied by him. Who is he?" Seeing that Han Fei was really angry, Xia Xiaochan quickly said, "Well, we can't go to him until we're both in the sea expansion realm. Chen Huangdian is too strong. I've seen him fight a new king. In the end, that newly advanced monarch wasn't even able to withstand one move and was directly defeated." Han Fei couldn't help but gasp. "Wait, isn't he a king too? Is there such a big difference between a king and a king?" At this moment, the old turtle said, "Of course, there's also an insurmountable gap between regular kings and the strongest kings. If the White Armor Emperor's combat power is 10, then the ones you met in the outer sea are mostly around 20. For example, the one from the Wuji heavens is at least 50. Han Fei asked, "You don't have anything specific? Let me ask you, what is the strongest combat power of the sea expansion realm?" The old turtle leisurely said, "If you only use the power you're familiar with to measure it, this emperor's strongest power back then was 400,000 waves. However, there shouldn't be many who can surpass me." Han Fei's heart skipped a beat. 50,000 waves were enough to make him an ordinary king. What did 400,000 waves mean? In a direct confrontation, the old turtle estimated that he could squash a White Armor Emperor to death with one finger. Xia Xiaochan didn't know that Han Fei was talking to the old turtle. She thought that Han Fei was surprised by Chen Huangdian's combat ability. She said, "Also, I suspect that Chen Huangdian isn't a king at all." Han Fei immediately raised his eyebrows. "Not a king? What do you mean?" Xia Xiaochan said, "It's just my feeling. even though he was ranked third among the Merfolk royal clan's sea expansion realm. However, there was one time when I used the metamorphosis water to form a pillar, and I saw that even heaven creation stage experts were extremely humble towards it. It was also at that time that he discovered the secret of my metamorphosis water. From then on, he never ran away again. Han Fei asked, "Are there still heaven creation stage experts in your Merfolk royal clan?" Xia Xiaochan said, "Of course. Otherwise, how could they resist the 36 black heavens?" Han Fei was deep in thought. Xia Xiaochan's question really had to be considered. In the first place, the strength of sea expansion monarchs varied. Even if he had just reached the sea expansion realm, it was impossible for him to be so powerful. Even with the enhancement of the Great Path, he might only be able to stand firm in this realm. After all, the old turtle said that when he was in the sea expansion realm, his power was only 80,000 waves. Even if he was on par with the old turtle and had the enhancement of the Great Path, he still couldn't reach the peak of the sea expansion realm. Therefore, he still had a long way to go. He had to put aside the matter of beating Chen Huangdian. He had to find a way to become a king first. Xia Xiaochan said, "I can't go back now. You have a small world, and I can wait for you to leave the land of kings' grave in the small world. Let's run." At that time, they would be able to leap freely in the vast sea and fly freely in the vast sky. He won't be able to catch us. Thinking that she could finally leave the royal family of mermaids, Xia Xiaochan burst into laughter and gave Han Fei a big slap on the mouth. In the sea-quelling painting, they spent 3 days together. The two of them didn't look like they were here to explore treasures, but more like they were here for a honeymoon. Han Fei estimated that it had already been 3 days. There should be some progress in the exploration of the various dangerous places. Those half-kings and peak-level venerables must have been killed by now. Han Fei said, "Girl, it's time to go out. Since the land of King's Grave will be open for a full month, we still have to settle accounts. After exploring this dangerous place, we can't let those guys from the investiture of God's heaven go out alive. But kill them all." In the 9 sounds array, when Han Fei came to find the hexagon starfish, he found that it was lying on the ground and sleeping soundly. Its 6 big eyes were all narrowed. Of course, it was impossible for a peak-level intermediate venerable not to know that Han Fei and the others were here. The hexagon starfish said, "This starfish has passed this tribulation." Han Fei raised his eyelids. In the past 3 days, he hadn't felt that the 9 sounds maze had been touched. Therefore, this big starfish was not afraid of the 9 sounds maze at all. This fellow didn't have any emotions at all. The supreme emotion for getting sound was even more bullshit to it. However, if there was lazy in the 9 sounds, the big starfish would definitely be devastated. Unfortunately, there was no such sound at all. Han Fei said grumpily, "Okay, let's go out." Hearing this, the hexagon starfish hurriedly said, "I think it's good here. This training is just right for me. I can still stay here." Xia Xiaochan moved her fingers and a dagger was stabbed at it. However, the hexagon starfish was prepared and an invisible big shield appeared on its body. Xia Xiaochan sneered, "Big starfish, I'll skin you if you talk nonsense again." The mountains and rivers swayed, and 2 people and 1 starfish appeared in the ruins of the outside world again. Han Fei asked, "What is this place again?" Xia Xiaochan said, "This is the city of the dead." A senior who has been here said that this is a place where the living and the dead live together. According to the historical materials, if we want to talk about the city of the dead, we have to talk about the place where the king died. Han Fei couldn't help but say, "You look like Luo Xiao by now. You know everything. The exit is the historical materials." Xia Xiaochan slapped Han Fei's arm. "I'm looking for the yin-yang heaven. So, I've basically read all the historical materials that can be read. Don't interrupt." Han Fei shrugged, and Xia Xiaochan said, "The place where the king died was originally a small world that the masters of the 36 immortal palaces snatched from the imperial palace." When Xia Xiaochan only said the first sentence, she heard Han Fei exclaim, "Such a big small world?" Xia Xiaochan waved her hand and said, "No, it's not that big. A real small world is not very big. It may not even be the size of a city. Weren't the other places created during the War of the Kings? The reason was because of the uneven distribution of booty. At that time, the group of kings all became kings through the imperial palace. Therefore, their strength was equal, and no one was much better than the other. However, they had powerful treasures in their hands, so a chaotic battle ensued. The small world that they had seized was torn apart, and several monarchs even self-destructed. The 3 perilous lands on the map were undoubtedly the places where the monarchs fell. Han Fei asked, "What about here?" Xia Xiaochan explained, "This city of the dead is said to have been guarded here by a strong master at that time, fighting against all the enemies. In the end, he sacrificed his soul and obtained great power. Here he slaughtered many strong masters. Later on, he himself also fell, leaving behind this place. However, the kings who didn't die later were all strong, and they should have come here again later. However, a lot of treasures were scattered in the place where the king died, and no one wanted to let their opponents take them. In the end, they came to a consensus, that is, let the venerable realm masters explore it. In this way, the treasures will belong to whoever has the ability. Only in this way can the war between the major forces be avoided." Han Fei thought, "The bloodshed in the martial world is often caused by treasures." Xia Xiaochan said, "This city of the dead is very weird. At that time, that person sacrificed his soul. It is said that he eventually became a zombie. I don't know if it's true or not. Throughout history, many strong masters who came to the place where the king died in this city of the dead." Han Fei was speechless. "If you knew it was so dangerous, why did you still come?" Xia Xiaochan couldn't help but pout. "But I also want to break through to the peak level of the venerable realm. I need a big battle and an opportunity to break through to the half-king level. Once I reach the advanced level of the half-king level, I can quickly accumulate the strength of the half-king level." Han Fei asked in surprise, "How can you quickly accumulate the strength?" Xia Xiaochan grinned and pulled Han Fei's arm. "When I was in the Mermaid King city, I secretly stuffed a lot of good things into the big starfish's door. I stuffed all kinds of resources that I could get into it. When the time comes, we just need to eat resources. Let's eat together later." Han Fei finally understood. Why was the hexagon starfish so fat? Why did the hexagon starfish grow so fast? Why was the chaotic qi in its body so rich? It turned out that it was all because of Xia Xiaochan's food. With the hexagon starfish's character, how could it not eat secretly? Seeing that Han Fei's eyes fell on it, the hexagon starfish grunted from Xia Xiaochan's shoulder to Xia Xiaochan's calf, feeling creepy. It thought, "I just ate a little bit." Chapter 1763. According to Xia Xiaochan's description, this city of the dead should be the place where a king died in battle. As for sacrificing one's soul, the more Han Fei listened to this, the more he felt it was a fantasy. He always felt that sacrifices were usually not good things. The sacrifice in the steps into the sea could basically be equivalent to a summoning ritual to summon the corresponding creature. The sacrificial technique invented by Yu Wendao was to summon the human body. The king of the city of the dead had probably been pushed too far back then and was in desperate need of power. That was the reason why he would do something like offering sacrifices. Han Fei said, "Doesn't this mean the king's corpse may still be in the dangerous place?" Xia Xiaochan said, "I'm not sure. I brought a lot of treasures this time, including the king's strike. I just want to see if the king's corpse in the city of the dead is still there. If it's still there, I can rob him of his treasures and this trip to the place where the king died will be a success." Han Fei said, "It's been tens of thousands of years. Maybe it has already been taken away. No one dares to go to the desperate place, but don't you dare to break into the city of the dead? I don't think we should have too much hope. However, we can look for the key to the imperial palace." With a flash between Han Fei's eyebrows, Little Black and Little White appeared. Xia Xiaochan's eyes lit up and she said in surprise, "Is this Little White? Have they become so beautiful?" Little Black and Little White had high IQs now and could speak. When Little White saw Xia Xiaochan, he also rubbed his head against her. "Mommy, cash red envelope, you can get cash when you read books?" Follow the WeChat public account. Cash/coins are waiting for you. Xia Xiaochan blushed and gave Han Fei a reproachful look. Nonsense. Little White can speak now? Where is Little Black? Xia Xiaochan had known that there was an invisible black fish in Han Fei's hands. So, after she kissed Xiao Bai a little, she immediately looked around, but she did not see anything. Mom, it wasn't until Little Black bumped Xia Xiaochan's shoulder with its head that she discovered, to her shock, that she had to sense this space with her perception in order to vaguely sense that there was a pure invisible space in this space. She couldn't even see the black. It was as if something that didn't exist existed beside her. Han Fei touched Little White's head and said, "Daughter, look here. Is the stone you found still here?" With that said, Han Fei took out the black yuan magnetic force. Xia Xiaochan asked in surprise, "You found a key?" Han Fei shrugged. "I picked it up by accident. If he's lucky, there's nothing I can do." At this moment, the hexagon starfish crawled over and said quickly, "This is not a good thing." It said that the Imperial Palace has a slim chance of survival, and only 1 out of 10 people can return. Han Fei rolled his eyes at the hexagon starfish. "You have to work hard to break through. We definitely have to go to the Imperial Palace. We're not afraid. Becoming a demi-king is practically a done deal. However, you're only at the peak of the intermediate venerable one. When you get there, even a bug can kill you. That's terrible." The hexagon starfish raised his claws and covered his eyes, as if he couldn't imagine what would happen to him after he went there. The hexagon starfish thought, "No, Han Fei is still too fierce. This guy used to be fierce, and now that he's so strong, he's even fiercer. This time, if Xia Xiaochan met him, she definitely wouldn't go back to the mermaid royal family." Then, thinking of Han Fei's fearless character, he knew he had to go to the Imperial Palace. "No, I can't die. I have to make a breakthrough. I have to break through to the venerable realm as soon as possible." Speaking of which, this underground palace was already dilapidated. After being bombarded by Han Fei and the others, it had almost been crushed into a wasteland. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan followed Little White and walked hand in hand. Soon, they found a tower-shaped building that had not been completely destroyed in this broken wall. Han Fei was very sensitive to arrays. Soon, Han Fei discovered that these stones were engraved with some Taoist patterns. Yes, the once extremely rare Taoist patterns. Han Fei saw them again. As soon as he saw the lines, Han Fei knew that each Taoist pattern was an array. Although there were not many lines on the tower-shaped stone, there were more than 20 of them that were crooked. This meant that this formation was made up of more than 20 formations. Under normal circumstances, who would look for a big stone that had fallen to the ground in the ruins? Even if someone rummaged through the ruins, it was still a problem whether he could recognize the Taoist patterns or not. Even if he did, the Taoist patterns were not so easy to crack. Han Fei didn't learn the record of myriad Dao patterns for nothing. Han Fei's fingers swished in the air and drew more than 20 times in a row. His soul power roared and shook, and Xia Xiaochan was surprised. Han Fei has become so powerful now. He can draw this kind of thing that I've never seen before? When the void formation and the formation on the rock merged, a blue spiral ripple shone brightly. Han Fei grabbed Xia Xiaochan, and the two of them twisted and disappeared into the ruins in the next moment. Swish, swished. When Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan appeared in a humid space, Han Fei knew that he had opened another small world. This was a small town. The layout of the town was open, and there were no unusually tall buildings here. From the looks of it, it looked like a village or something. The roads here extended in all directions. Although most of them had collapsed and there were big pits in many places, there were always some roads that were still intact. The two of them released their perception almost at the same time. To their surprise, this place didn't hinder the exploration of perception. Therefore, the two of them soon found that something was wrong. In this small world with a total area of less than 800 kilometers, there was a graveyard full of corpses. Swish, swish, swish. 2 round wheels, making a ferocious trembling sound, rushed over. Xia Xiaochan and Han Fei turned their heads at the same time. Han Fei grabbed the void and grabbed the round wheel. Xia Xiaochan disappeared directly. On a road 100 kilometers away from Han Fei, there was a corpse standing up shakily. Of course, at this moment, Xia Xiaochan had already slashed it 17 or 18 times. Each slash was like a thread of light and shadow flashing past. When Xia Xiaochan stopped, the corpse had been broken into pieces, and its body had been cut into 50 or 60 pieces. Han Fei clasped the round wheel, shattered the blood on the round wheel, and slashed back at the graveyard with his saber. On the way, another corpse that had just climbed up tried to block, but was directly cut in half by the round wheel. Han Fei stepped into the void and came directly to Xia Xiaochan. At this moment, both of them frowned. Because the corpse that had been cut into 50 or 60 pieces by Xia Xiaochan could actually be reassembled. Its body was reassembling. Master Hexagon screamed, "What the hell is this? It can't be killed." Han Fei, pinch it to death, pinch it to death. But Han Fei didn't move at all and just said indifferently, "This corpse should have been in the venerable realm before it died. Now, it has actually decayed, but I don't know what power has resurrected it." In Han Fei's heart, the old turtle said, "They are undead creatures." Han Fei was stunned and quickly responded, "Don't undead creatures still have reason and memory? These are clearly dead people. How did they become undead creatures?" The old turtle said, "Some people become undead creatures through normal means. They specialize in this way and try to achieve immortality in this way. However, some people don't. After they die, part of their souls are forcibly sucked away and become a part of someone else's power. And the remaining corpses, because part of their souls are sucked away, become this half-dead state. Of course, in this state, as long as the supply of death energy to the remnant souls is cut off, they can be killed." Han Fei glanced at this corpse and saw a layer of blue shimmer on it. Then he looked at its eyes, and there was a little soul fire jumping. Han Fei roared in a low voice, and the 100-beast soul-devouring roar directly destroyed the last remnant soul on the corpse. The body of the half-assembled corpse crumbled. This time, it could no longer stand up. Xia Xiaochan also figured out the way to kill this kind of corpse after seeing it. However, the two of them looked at the cemetery hundreds of kilometers away and saw a man in armor, holding a long sword, exuding a monstrous death energy. Far away, Han Fei heard a voice echoing in the air, "Let's die together, let's die together." Xia Xiaochan said in shock, "Is that the corpse of a king?" Swish, the man appeared in front of Han Fei in an instant. The sword in his hand, with boundless death energy, had already fallen from the sky. Clanked Han Fei was also a veteran of hundreds of battles. At the moment when the man attacked, Han Fei's embroidery needle had already appeared in his hand, and with a blow, he jumped into the sky. Bam! Under this blow, Han Fei retreated more than 1,000 meters, which made him take a long breath. Fortunately, this king died as soon as he became a king. His current strength was no better than that of an ordinary king. He was even weaker than the White Armor Emperor. Han Fei said, "Girl." Little Black and Little White rushed out. How could Xia Xiaochan not understand what Han Fei meant? Han Fei could resist a king, and Xia Xiaochan had just learned this combat power. Now, since Han Fei still had the strength, he would let her deal with the remaining corpses and look for treasures. However, when Xia Xiaochan rushed over, she found that the number of corpses here was beyond her imagination. There were as many as 1,000. Swish, 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 puff, puff, puff. Xia Xiaochan, like a nimble elf in the forest, tossed and moved among the countless corpses at an extremely fast speed. Every time the light of the dagger flashed, a few corpses would be cut down. At this moment, what Xia Xiaochan felt was not danger, but excitement, and her blood was boiling. After more than 20 years, the two teamed up again, and they were as sharp as before. Chapter 1764. After all, this walking corpse used to be a pioneer sea realm monarch. Even though his body had decayed, his strength wasn't much weaker. This person even instinctively displayed the sword essence of the heavens. After a single blow, Han Fei and this person were on par with each other. This person casually stabbed out a terrifying sword chi comparable to Han Fei's draw technique. Not to be outdone, Han Fei activated the invincible golden body and fused the great path with it. This blow blasted out, but this person was only blasted back more than 10 kilometers. However, Han Fei didn't seem very happy because he used the invincible great path. And this person just casually stabbed out. That sword strike was completely natural and extremely casual, yet it seemed to contain a myriad of profundities. Even though this person was dead, his swordsmanship had been integrated into his body and became his instinctive reaction. Dao Aura. Han Fei had fought with a king before. When fighting with other kings, their power of great path seemed to be used on themselves. For example, power, defense, seal, etc. However, Han Fei had never fought with a sword cultivator before. Han Fei had never thought that the Dao aura would be so strong when it fell on a sword cultivator. Yes, when a sea expansion sword cultivator raised their hand and threw their sword, just a casual swing of their sword seemed to contain endless transformations. For example, the sword just now seemed ordinary, but he couldn't dodge it. Of course, Han Fei didn't want to boost the morale of others. Before Han Fei's body landed on the ground, he had already rushed out. This time, he used the road of the invincible realm to fight with the opponent's swordsmanship. Clang him. After another impact, Han Fei held the embroidery needle against the corpse and pushed it 100 kilometers away on the ground. The terrifying explosion ripples rolled over and had already caught up with Xia Xiaochan and the others. The hexagon starfish exclaimed, "That's terrifying. A king is really too terrifying. If it falls on a starfish, it will be gone." Xia Xiaochan's body was like a phantom, occasionally flickering and drawing shadows. The blade swept past, leaving behind a pile of broken corpses. She said, "Then find a way to become a king. The days of eating and drinking for free every day are over." Starfish bitter? "Hey, there's something shining over there. It must be a treasure. Let's go get it." In the end, the hexagon starfish still couldn't resist the temptation of treasures, especially the shiny ones. Han Fei also noticed that the glowing thing seemed to be where the king of swordsmen was sleeping. It flickered with green light, and indeed looked like a treasure. Ding ding ding, Han Fei had already felt the power of a sword cultivator. He had a new idea in his mind. He had always used the power of Tao to enhance his strength, but what if he changed the way he used it? For example, the great Tao of heavenly enlightenment was used for healing. The great Tao of time naturally used the laws of the great Tao of time to fight. On the road to invincibility, Han Fei walked on a state of mind that could give him endless invincible momentum. The great Tao of gravity was also the application of a specific great Tao. However, what would happen if the battle skills that he was most proficient in, such as the saber, became a type of path? The sword had its own path, and the saber had its own path. Han Fei didn't like to use weapons like swords, but he was very good at using knives. Han Fei decided that if there was a chance in the future, he would have to give it a try. If he could create a knife path that belonged to him, his every move would be full of knife intent. With a casual slash, he could lock onto the enemy's trace and be unstoppable. At this moment, Han Fei didn't intend to fight with this king's corpse for too long. After all, the other party had already died, and now it was just a body. Otherwise, the battle with him wouldn't be so simple. Even Han Fei didn't dare to challenge him like this. When Xia Xiaochan's shadow clasped the big green glowing cocoon, Han Fei retreated quickly and said lightly, "Explode." As early as when Han Fei was fighting with the king's corpse, the infinity water had already drilled into the king's body. After all, the other party was only a corpse and had no consciousness. Therefore, the other party didn't force out the infinity water. At this point, the infinity water could be said to be scattered in every part of the king's corpse. At the moment when Han Fei said, "Explode," Han Fei quickly said via voice transmission, "Six-gate formation." Master Hexagon's reaction speed was very fast. Since Han Fei stepped aside, he had to open the array. Otherwise, nothing good would come out of it. Sure enough, as soon as the purple light formation was opened, a super explosive energy like a mushroom cloud swept across the entire small world. The infinity water was an important treasure of a city, and it could grow with the strength of the user. At this moment, Although Han Fei hadn't become a king yet, he was not far from the weakest king. The power of the infinity water was naturally extraordinary. After all, this king was just a beginner king, and his strength wasn't exaggerated. Besides, because he was a sword cultivator, not a body cultivator, in terms of physique, this person should be much weaker than Han Fei. Therefore, the explosion directly blew him into pieces. Within 800 kilometers, the town was crushed to the ground, and many corpses were directly blown into pieces. Han Fei seemed to be used to the impact of this kind of explosion, and he walked in the explosion. As he walked towards Xia Shaochan step by step, many corpses that were not killed by the explosion still wanted to pounce on him. However, Han Fei casually pulled out his knife and chopped the corpse into pieces. Seeing this scene, the hexagon starfish's 6 big eyes kept rolling. He knew that Han Fei was a ruthless person, but he didn't expect that he was even more ruthless now. It seemed that he would have to suffer in the future. Of course, in Xia Xiaochan's eyes, it was different. Xia Xiaochan was quite excited. The moment Han Fei appeared here, she knew that Han Fei was the most powerful. He could come to this place step by step in a resource-poor place like the Yin-Yang Heaven. How many difficulties had he gone through? After all, she was no longer a child now. At that time, she was secretly in love with him. Now it seemed that she was looking at her man. Han Fei stretched out his hand and waved, and the infinity water gathered. In this explosion, Han Fei found 2 sun-moon shells easily. Unfortunately, neither of these 2 shells belonged to the king. Crack! Suddenly, there was a muffled noise in this place. Han Fei's heart skipped a beat. Let's go. This small world is about to break. The destruction of the small world was actually not a big problem for Han Fei. In this fragmented small world, although there would be void storms, Han Fei had passed through them more than once or twice. However, Xia Shaochan and the hexagon starfish had never passed through them. So, Han Fei carved an array in the air, and in the blink of an eye, a teleportation array appeared. Xia Shaochan came at this time, glanced at the small world that was about to break, and took Han Fei's elbow. The next moment, the 2 disappeared from this space. Swish, when the 2 appeared in the outside world, they saw that the small tower-like stone was full of cracks. In less than 3 breaths of time, it shattered into pieces and shattered into pieces. Han Fei said, "The treasures on this person have already been taken." Otherwise, he would have used a sea-quelling bizarre treasure instead of an ultra-quality divine weapon. However, it's not that he didn't gain anything. Let's wait and see. Han Fei took out the 2 sun-moon shells he had just obtained, opened them, and found that there were very few things inside. Among them, there were no ultra-quality spiritual stones, spiritual spring, spiritual fruits, and the like. This made Han Fei feel strange. After all, these people who died were all venerable realm experts. There should be some backup resources in the sun-moon shells. However, there was nothing in these 2 sun-moon shells, but a pile of various materials. Xia Shaochan asked, "What did you find?" Han Fei waved his hand, and suddenly, a pile of earth-yellow stones in total fell out. As soon as these stones appeared, including Xia Shaochan and the hexagon starfish, they immediately discovered that these stones contained some kind of terrifying power. Xia Shaochan asked, "What is this?" Han Fei was surprised. The old turtle said, "Mysterious yellow stone? This thing is extraordinary." Even in the heaven-opening realm, mysterious yellow stone is a rare cultivation treasure. In Han Fei's eyes, information also emerged. Name: mysterious yellow stone. Introduction: a strange stone condensed by mysterious yellow gas, which can only be formed after being precipitated for countless years in an extremely special environment. It is very precious. The mysterious yellow stone contains a large amount of mysterious yellow gas, which is an extremely high-end energy of heaven and earth that can replace other energy of heaven and earth. Leveled heaven-opening realm quality high quality contains mysterious yellow gas unknown. Remarks: you can use the mysterious yellow stone more effectively if you practice cultivation methods related to mysterious yellow gas. Seeing the explanation of this mysterious yellow stone, Han Fei couldn't help but smile. This seems to be a pleasant surprise. Originally, he just came here to find the key to the Imperial Palace. And these 13 mysterious yellow stones not only had Taoist aura, but also a kind of high-level energy. More importantly, he suddenly got as many as 13 of them. The conditions that the Snow Girls discussed with him were to let him bring back 20 keys to the Imperial Palace, protect the safety of the Ice and Snow Beginner, and take care of the people from the Ice and Snow Heavens. Now, he just casually picked them up, and plus the ones he had unconsciously seen before, he had 14 keys to the Imperial Palace. The key was that these keys were still useful. How much mysterious yellow gas was in the mysterious yellow stone? Han Fei didn't know yet. However, Han Fei knew that there was a mysterious yellow sutra in the dragon-taming heaven. If he could get his hands on this cultivation technique, then this mysterious yellow stone would naturally be of use to him. The hexagon starfish's tentacles, unconsciously, had reached out to a mysterious yellow stone. Han Fei said leisurely, "If you dare to move, I will cut off your tentacles and make them into barbecue." The hexagon starfish retracted his tentacles and said leisurely, "It's shiny. I can help you keep it. It doesn't take up space." Han Fei looked at Xia Xiaochan. "This is the key to the Imperial Palace, and it is a very high-level one. Let's keep this kind of key for ourselves." Xia Xiaochan grunted and then grabbed the big white cocoon in her hand and said, "I feel that there seems to be something moving inside." Chapter 1765. It's moving? Han Fei couldn't help but wonder, it's been tens of thousands of years. What can live for so long? Xia Xiaochan said, "Open it and you'll know." With that, Xia Xiaochan pointed a sharp knife and cut the big white cocoon. As a result, the surface of the big cocoon flickered with dazzling flames. "Huh!" Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan were both surprised. "What's this? How can it resist the cutting of a venerable?" A dagger appeared in Xia Xiaochan's hand, and she quickly sliced the big cocoon. Finally, she managed to make a cut on it. However, at that moment, Xia Xiaochan threw the big cocoon at Han Fei and said with disgust, "Bug." Bug? Although Han Fei didn't like bugs, he wasn't afraid of them. After all, when he was in the Shuemu heaven, there was a whole group of bugs. At that time, many bugs even cheered him on. When Han Fei looked down, he saw that the big white cocoon was filled with a bubbling dark green liquid. In this liquid, a fleshy bug was bobbing up and down. "Hello, everyone, we will find gold and coin red packets every day on our WeChat account. You can receive them as long as you follow us. This is the last benefit at the end of the year. Please seize the opportunity." WeChat account? Han Fei thought to himself, isn't this a Tao-devouring demon bug? But the information that emerged in his eyes was different. Name, Tao-devouring bug king. Introduction, a kind of extremely rare primeval ancient bug that can devour the Great Way and control souls. The Tao-devouring bug king can accumulate the power of the Great Way and launch an attack of the Great Way. As long as it doesn't die, it can often change its host. When the Tao-devouring bug king devours the power of the host, it can directly replace the host and directly obtain the strength of the host. When the Tao-devouring bug king leaves the host, there is a certain chance that the host will die. Level 1 quality primeval ancient bug contains swordsmanship edible effect in inedibles collectible, uncollectible remarks. In its current state, it can be recognized as its master with just a drop of blood. When Han Fei saw this bug, he couldn't help but think, the ability of this bug is really amazing. If I have the right opportunity, this thing can directly give me the combat power of a king-level powerhouse. That's not a joke. However, Han Fei thought to himself, if I become a king, my strength will soar. At that time, he might not necessarily need this thing. So, he might as well give it to Xia Xiaochan. Her background was more complicated than she had thought. One more king was another layer of protection. As for where the king came from, he could only hunt them slowly in the future. Han Fei immediately said, "Girl, I'll let you refine this insect. Its power will be extraordinary. I don't want to, Han Fei." Xia Xiaochan said, "I hate bugs. This looks very similar to the one outside the cave. It's obviously not an insect. Refine it yourself." Han Fei was amused. "After all, it wasn't easy for you to snatch it. Just because you say no? Do they not care about their reputation? Xia Xiaochan snorted. Heavenly Cicada is already very powerful. Besides, I still have the giant arowana, a sea-quelling bizarre treasure. Countless resources. I'm rich now. You can refine this little bug. Yeah. Han Fei was speechless. Wait, how many things have you stuffed into the hexagon starfish's door? The hexagon starfish said, not much, not much. It won't take long. Xia Xiaochan glared at the hexagon starfish. More than that. You may not believe it. I've saved 10 million ultra-quality spiritual stones. I've also saved 2 sets of sea-quelling bizarre treasures. I've saved more than 200,000 spiritual fruits. Oh, I've hidden more than 1,700 treasure maps. As for the king's flesh, I've hidden a small hill. And the floating stones, I've also made a small hill. Han Fei. After hearing Xia Xiaochan's report, Han Fei was shocked. Han Fei was speechless. Wait, aren't you forced to cultivate every day? Where did you get so many things? You even have king's flesh? 2 sets of sea-quelling bizarre treasures. And more than 200,000 spiritual fruits? Xia Xiaochan couldn't help but blush. Didn't I join a pirate crew for a while? Once, I robbed a ship of the Grand Purity Palace and happened to get these. Han Fei was dumbfounded. Didn't you give anything to the crew? Xia Xiaochan looked puzzled. Then am I a princess or are they princesses? I've saved so many resources, waiting for an opportunity to escape back to the Yin-Yang heaven. Otherwise, I can't go back empty-handed, can I? The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. If I didn't know better, I would think that you were going to buy the Yin-Yang heaven. Han Fei said with shame, fine. God knows how much of your stuff this starfish has eaten. It's been eaten to this extent. Forget it, since you don't want this bug, I'll take it. I have a hunch that I'll need it in the future. Han Fei thought to himself that he and Xia Xiaochan would eventually return to the Yin-Yang heaven. However, the cage seal of the Yin-Yang heaven was a big problem. Han Fei couldn't imagine what impact the cage seal would have on the Yin-Yang heaven and the Waterwood heaven once it was broken. He couldn't judge whether it would have any impact on the outside world of the barbaric abyss if the seal was broken. In fact, would Yin-Yang heaven appear in the chaotic azure sea again in the future? After all, he had been hiding in the barbaric abyss for tens of thousands of years. In the future, if the time was right and he had the opportunity to go out, would he want it or not? If he wanted to come out, he would first have to face the 36 mysterious heavens, the Grand Pure and Wuji Immortal Palace, and Xia Xiaochan. If her father knew that she had gone to the Yin-Yang heaven, would he send someone to the Yin-Yang heaven? However, Han Fei wasn't worried about this. Since her father couldn't come to the chaotic ocean, he probably didn't have the means to go to the Yin-Yang heaven. Occasionally sending 1 or 2 subordinates and going to the Yin-Yang heaven in person were 2 different things. Han Fei said that he didn't feel sad for human beings, but when the Yin-Yang heaven belonged to his force, he had to be careful. After all, those people were under his protection. He had to consider more and more problems. However, in the blink of an eye, Han Fei swept away his melancholy. Originally, he planned to stop after finding his sister. Then, he would immediately return to the Yin-Yang heaven and find a way to become a king. Finding Xia Xiaochan was a pleasant surprise. This great joy was enough to wash away a lot of his melancholy. Seeing that Xia Xiaochan was still glancing at the bug in the big white cocoon with slight disdain, Han Fei couldn't help but laugh. Then Han Fei pointed his finger, and a wisp of golden blood dripped from his fingertip into the cocoon. When Xia Xiaochan saw Han Fei's golden blood, she subconsciously looked up at Han Fei, seeming a little surprised. She thought to herself, the human bloodline shouldn't have golden blood. However, thinking that she had experienced so much with Han Fei, maybe he had accidentally obtained some treasures and improved his bloodline. In just over 20 years, in a place where everything was scarce in the Yin-Yang heaven, he had advanced to the peak stage of the Venerable Realm. This was completely different from when she had advanced to the peak stage of the Venerable Realm in the Mermaid Royal family. How could Xia Xiaochan not understand? When this Tao-devouring bug king swallowed Han Fei's essence blood, Han Fei immediately established a spiritual connection with it. At this moment, this bug was still too fragile. Even if it was a savage ancient bug, it sounded scary. But now it was just a little bug at the mercy of Han Fei. Anyway, Han Fei wouldn't need it for a while, so he threw it into the spirit awakening fluid in Forge the Universe. Although this bug drank it like water, it couldn't drink much. So he just let it be. At this point, this harvest was over. With a flash between Han Fei's eyebrows, he asked Little White to continue to find the way. Han Fei felt that it was too easy to find this city of dead men. The entrance had been openly placed here for tens of thousands of years, but no one could find it. Wasn't this strange? However, after only 2 minutes, Little White swam back with a swish and rubbed against Han Fei. "Dad, there is a very, very dangerous place here." Han Fei said in surprise, "You found it so soon? Why didn't we find it just now?" Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan looked at each other, and Xia Xiaochan also said in surprise, "I didn't feel it either. There shouldn't be a second cave entrance here, right?" The two of them followed Little White suspiciously. After swimming for only more than 10 kilometers, they saw a long and narrow crack on the rock wall. Both Xia Xiaochan and Han Fei had discovered this crack a long time ago. However, although this crack was long and narrow, it was only about 200 meters deep, which could accommodate about 2 or 3 people walking side by side. When Han Fei walked into this crack, he saw that the rock wall of this crack was engraved with dense arrays. Han Fei was surprised. "My perception has been deceived." Xia Xiaochan said, "No wonder no one has been able to find the crisis in the underground palace. Because the array to the city of dead men is still there. It turns out that they are all attracted here. Shall we give it a try?" Han Fei didn't speak. There were 2 worlds inside and outside this crack. In the past, when he was alone, he was still careful. Now, with Xia Xiaochan, he had to be even more careful. Han Fei took out the 9-palace ruler of destiny, and with a swish, it floated in the air, letting the ruler swim freely. Han Fei didn't hide this from Xia Xiaochan. Although the 9-palace ruler of destiny was good, if even Xia Xiaochan had to keep it a secret, how tired would he be? Xia Xiaochan had heard Han Fei mention the 9-palace ruler of destiny, but it was the first time she had seen it. At this moment, she only felt it was quite amazing. But then, when the ruler mark was engraved on the Great Misfortune hexagram, Han Fei couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He could definitely deal with the Great Misfortune. However, Xia Xiaochan's face was tense, as if she felt that a great battle was imminent. Han Fei frowned. Unfortunately, the 9-palace ruler of destiny could only change one person's luck. He didn't care about the Great Misfortune, but he had just found Xia Xiaochan, and he wouldn't let her take the risk no matter what. So, with a thought, Han Fei threw 6 streams of chaotic energy into it in a row. Finally, the ruler mark of the 9-palace ruler of destiny was changed to the misfortune hexagram. However, this misfortune hexagram was not his own, but Xia Xiaochan's. Chapter 1766. Over the years, Han Fei had encountered a lot of dangerous situations. Even if it was a desperate situation, Han Fei had encountered it twice. Therefore, this mere great calamity might really be great calamity to other cultivators of the same realm. However, Han Fei believed that it couldn't hurt him at all. Han Fei said, "Go in. As long as it's not a desperate situation, even if it's a dangerous situation, it's not a dangerous situation. Master Hexagon, in order to survive, you'd better hurry up. When it's time to use an array, don't hesitate." The Hexagon Starfish's big eyes rolled. "Starfish, can you not go? Starfish is waiting for you to come out outside?" Han Fei grinned. "Okay. Even if you go back, if another Half-King Realm powerhouse comes here, do you think you can hide? Or will they break the array and catch you?" The Hexagon Starfish's eyes widened. Then I'd better go." In fact, the Hexagon Starfish was smart. Staying outside was definitely more dangerous than following Han Fei. Han Fei was a freak who could resist the bombardment of a King Realm powerhouse. With such a combat power, it would be unwise to stay outside. Xia Xiaochan snorted. "Go in. No matter where I go now, I feel comfortable. Anyway, I don't have to go back to the Mermaid Royal family anymore." While talking, the two of them stepped into the crack at the same time. Sure enough, when the two of them walked in, the scene in front of them immediately changed. This was not a crack at all. What appeared in front of the two of them was the entrance of a cave. There were 3 words engraved on the entrance, which was called Whale Valley. Looking at the desolate cave entrance, there were only bare stones left. Even here, the entrance was dilapidated and covered with dust. It looked like a silk coiling cave. Han Fei looked back, only to see nothing behind him. Obviously, the way he came here had been cut off. Xia Xiaochan asked, on the map the words Whale Valley were never mentioned. Has this place not been explored? Han Fei shook his head. Impossible. This city of the dead is too conspicuous. There are only 12 such 5-star dangerous places in total. Including the small world we just went to, it should have been explored. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to obtain 2 sun moon shells. In my opinion, although most people haven't discovered the city of the dead, they will definitely discover the Whale Valley. The reason why he didn't mention it. Xia Xiaochan's face changed slightly. It means that they're all dead. Come on, let's go. Both Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan had been bold since they were little. The number of mystic realms he had passed through was innumerable. Therefore, the two of them walked in without hesitation. The moment they entered the Whale Valley, the two of them immediately felt the pressure on their bodies increase dramatically. The surrounding void also seemed to be squeezing. The two of them felt as if they were on the edge of a cliff and were about to fall. Sweet. Behind Xia Xiaochan, the heavenly cicada wings were spread out and flapped. An inexplicable rhythm of the great Tao expelled the surrounding power, allowing Xia Xiaochan to fly in the sky. Han Fei immediately discovered that he couldn't fly here. With a thought in his mind, the endless water rolled up like a dragon. Han Fei stood calmly on the infinity water and looked down. Gurgle, gurgle. He saw that below him was a pool of venomous swamp water. When Han Fei found that his clothes were being corroded by the gas here, he was about to remind Mr. Hexagon Starfish. With a hum, Mr. Hexagon Starfish had set up an array in advance. This array was surrounded by purple gas, enveloping Han Fei in it. Mr. Hexagon sighed. It's too dangerous. The pool water here can corrode the body and soul. I knew it was not easy to come to this place. See, Starfish was right, wasn't he? Xia Xiaochan scoffed. Shut up. You talk too much all day. Believe it or not, I'll throw you into this pool. Although he knew that Xia Xiaochan was just threatening him, the Hexagon Starfish still chose to shut up. After all, neither of them was very good-tempered. God knew if they would go crazy. Han Fei secretly clenched his fingers. The beginning was already so weird. If he didn't have some tricks up his sleeves, he would probably be able to defeat some of them at the beginning. Crack. As soon as the two of them stabilized their bodies, they saw huge cone-shaped sharp blades appearing up and down in the sky and the poisonous swamp. The big swords, which looked like small mountains, rushed towards Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan. Han Fei reacted extremely quickly. He stretched out his hand and grabbed in the air, and a void crack slashed at them. Bam, bam, bam. After a series of explosions, this giant sword-like all finally collapsed. Xia Xiaochan flickered a few times and appeared above a vertebra. She said in surprise, "It's a sword chi-killing array. It's displayed through spiritual energy." Han Fei nodded. In all directions, there were more and more such big swords. At the beginning, there were only 2, but now there were dozens, and the number seemed to be increasing. Han Fei said, "The power of this blow is equivalent to the power of a peak-level venerable. Let's go. Don't fight." In the giant sword shadows, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan were like a small boat, passing through this poisonous swamp that was like a rain of big swords. The two of them ran more than 300 kilometers in a row before the sword formation slowly disappeared. It seemed that their range was only as large as a 300-kilometer area. Xia Xiaochan said, "Are you okay? The clothes on your body are basically unwearable." Han Fei looked down at the clothes on his body, which were basically as ragged as a beggar's. Oh no, the clothes of a beggar might be better. Just now, Han Fei took the initiative to leave the hexagon starfish array for convenience. After all, Han Fei was proud of his strong physique. Although this was the case, he still looked quite embarrassed. After all, his clothes were not as strong as Han Fei's current body. Han Fei smiled awkwardly and a set of ultra-quality divine battle suits appeared on his body again. Han Fei said, "This place is definitely not so simple. There was such a big movement just now, but now there is nothing? It doesn't make sense." Xia Xiaochan flew over and wondered, "I always feel that we have come to the wrong place? The city of the dead has been explored. What kind of secret realm is it? Why is it hidden in another secret realm?" Han Fei said, "This is just an undersea cave. We thought this was a secret realm. However, secret realms are originally hidden deeply. Otherwise, how could they be called secret realms?" As soon as Han Fei said this, suddenly, a huge suction force wrapped the two of them. In the void in all directions, a gale was raging. This suction force was actually somewhat comparable to the suction force of the Heaven and Earth Nature Array. Han Fei immediately clasped Xia Xiaochan's waist with the void lines. The two of them almost flew side by side into the depths of this poisonous swamp. Xia Xiaochan flapped her wings, but her face changed drastically. What a powerful suction force! Han Fei's face didn't look good either. This suction force seemed to exceed the power range of the Half-King realm and had reached the Sea Expansion realm. There's a restriction spell here. Han Fei tried to block this suction force. However, the restriction spell, which had always been powerful, didn't work here at all. Han Fei thought to himself, there is only one way to go here. It seems that everything is set up. Therefore, he and Xia Xiaochan looked at each other and instantly reached a consensus. In an instant, the two of them gave up resisting at the same time and let the terrifying suction force directly suck them thousands of kilometers away. When Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan saw a big black hole, Han Fei even joked, "If Quang were here, he would be shocked. The way he walks is quite extraordinary." Xia Xiaochan rolled her eyes and thought to herself, "Are you kidding in this dangerous place?" The two of them were swept up by the hurricane and immediately crashed into a sea. However, the two of them immediately found something wrong. Xia Xiaochan said to Han Fei via voice transmission, "This is not seawater." Han Fei was also shocked. What a strong corrosive force. Han Fei wanted to probe out his perception. However, his perception was corroded again, and Han Fei was so scared that he quickly took it back. The hexagon starfish did not hesitate to unfold the six-gate formation, immediately enveloping Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan. He shouted, "It's over, it's over." The starfish feels that this force is accelerating the corrosion of the starfish's formation. Han Fei looked down at his battle suit that had just been damaged, only to find that it had been corroded again. Xia Xiaochan wasn't much better. Her battle suit was also corroded and ragged. Even then, the corrosive liquid was still roiling, surging like the tide. Suddenly, Han Fei saw a large area of glowing objects not far away. When Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan looked at it together, they found that it was a powerful creature. Xia Xiaochan asked in surprise, "Is it a Half-King realm expert of the 100 Demons clan?" Because the other party's true body had appeared, information immediately appeared in Han Fei's eyes. Name: Nightmare Sea Squid, dying. Introduction: a divine sea giant squid that is good at psychedelic, dream manipulation, hypnosis, and other soul manipulation techniques. It often hides in the dark and creates an environment with grenades and enemies. The Nightmare Sea Squid has 7 great strength and can burst out dreamlike rays from its pupils, which can catch people off guard. Level 89 Quality Legendary Realm Half-King Path Psychedelic contains Chaotic Cheech 268 Battle Techniques, Dark Decay, Dream Manipulation, Nightmare Demon Kill, Collectible Dream Eating Tooth, Dream Eye Note. With Dream Eye, there is a chance to prevent hypnosis. The weapon forged by the Dream Eating Tooth can directly attack the soul. A dying Half-King Realm expert? Han Fei's heart did a flip. Even this Half-King Realm expert didn't survive here, which meant that it was extremely difficult to find a way here. Fortunately, he didn't use up the Navigator King's myriad manifestations at the beginning. Sure enough, it was useful now. However, when he saw the nightmare sea squid, Han Fei had a bad feeling. Am I in a fish's stomach? First update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1767. The reason why Han Fei had such an idea was that the two of them had encountered too many corrosive liquids along the way. At first, Han Fei thought that it was a poisonous swamp. However, when a giant squid appeared here, Han Fei didn't feel good. He remembered what whales usually like to do: swallow squids and sea squids. It seemed that squid and the like were their favorite food. More importantly, the Whale Valley. It was a strange name. After all, Han Fei hadn't seen any whales along the way. However, now that he thought about it, they seemed to have similar features. Could it be that this was a king from tens of thousands of years ago was still alive? However, didn't he just kill the corpse of a king? Why was there another one now? The nightmare sea squid was dying, but it still had more than 200 wisps of chaotic energy. How could Han Fei tolerate that? No matter what environment he was in, he couldn't let go of at least 200 wisps of chaotic energy. Earlier, when Han Fei killed the 3 peak-level venerable demons, he didn't even have 200 wisps of chaotic energy in total. Obviously, a half-king was still a half-king. A peak-level venerable couldn't compare to it. The nightmare sea squid naturally saw Han Fei and the others, but it didn't care about them anymore. Any creature it saw now was like a life-saving straw. Besides, those two were only peak-level venerables. Even though it was dying, it couldn't be as powerful as 2 peak-level venerables, could it? Immediately, the nightmare sea squid swam over with a swish. Its eyes turned purple and it roared, "Dream invasion!" However, before it burst out, the nightmare sea squid suddenly sensed a life-and-death crisis. The speed was so fast that it couldn't escape anymore. A moment later, before the nightmare sea cuttlefish could complete its dreamland attack, it felt as though its consciousness had been invaded. The nightmare sea squid was shocked. What kind of power is this? It's even more direct than my dream invasion technique. At the same time, it also sensed that the chaotic energy in its body was fading. How could it not realize at this moment that its opponent wasn't someone to be trifled with? How could anyone who could survive here be a weakling? At this moment, it could only lament, "I am too weak now, otherwise, I would definitely be able to fight." However, when it was completely controlled by Han Fei's void lines, it roared, "You will die too. Just a little later than me. I'll be waiting for you," Xia Xiaochan said. Huh? This must be a nightmare sea squid. Its ability to enter dreams is extremely terrifying. Why didn't it attack? Xia Xiaochan looked at Han Fei and realized that he had already taken action. Han Fei said, "It was dying in the first place. I just sent it on its way. However, we have to leave this place as soon as possible." Xia Xiaochan looked around, only to find that she was surrounded by the poisonous swamp and couldn't release her senses. The hexagon starfish also screamed, "Starfish can't hold on much longer. This poison is too powerful, and Starfish is only a mid-level venerable." Han Fei glanced at it and said, "Now you know how dangerous it is outside? This was just a place where a king had died. In the future, if we go to the Imperial Palace, how useful will your six-gate formation be? At that time, it will all depend on your realm." Xia Xiaochan added, "There are only 32 years left before we go to the Imperial Palace. Big Starfish, this may be the last 32 years of your life." Hiss, the hexagon starfish was frightened and felt that death had never been so close. It was said that the Imperial Palace was a dangerous place. Only 1 out of 10 venerables could come out. Was this a joke? The hexagon starfish's 6 big eyes were rolling. Then Starfish will make a breakthrough after we go out. Although the breakthrough is a bit painful, Starfish is already on the verge of a breakthrough. This nightmare sea squid could have held on for a while, but after being controlled by Han Fei, its body was corroding at a speed visible to the naked eye. And the vitality, soul, and chaotic energy that Han Fei absorbed from it were endless. After a full 10 minutes, under the repeated urging of the old turtle, Han Fei finally sucked the nightmare sea squid clean. Even then, Han Fei didn't let go of the dream-eating teeth and dream eyes on the nightmare sea squid. The dream-eating teeth were just the teeth of the nightmare sea squid. Because of their inherent specialties, they could directly attack the soul. As for the dream eyes, they were two thumb-sized crystal beads in the eyes. Han Fei grabbed the dream eyes and handed one to Xia Xiaochun. "You can eat it," Xia Xiaochun asked. "Can I eat it cooked?" Han Fei thought to himself, "That's true. It's indeed tasteless to eat it raw." So Han Fei put it away and said, "Then let's eat it cooked when we go out." Xia Xiaochun immediately said, "I'm fast and I have the cicadas to scout the way. Wait here for a while. I'll find a way." Han Fei grabbed Xia Xiaochun. "Don't bother. I have my own plan." Han Fei thought to himself, the nautical multitude is really useful. In the chaotic ocean, this thing is like a divine artifact. In terms of finding a way, it can be invincible in the chaotic ocean. This mortal saint artifact was definitely going to be used frequently. Therefore, Han Fei directly took it out. He didn't want to wait for Xia Xiaochun to ask and then he would have to make up a story. As soon as the nautical multitude was taken out, the 5 rings inside and outside began to rotate rapidly, and soon the direction was determined. Because this was not the foggy area of the chaotic ocean, this direction would not change. The two of them ran for more than 600 kilometers before they found an exit. At this moment, the hexagon starfish's 6-gate formation was still intact. Han Fei thought to himself, mysterious creatures are really powerful. Even a half-king can't hold on for long in this place. The hexagon starfish keeps saying that it's dying, but it's still holding on until now. In a sense, the defense of the hexagon starfish is actually stronger than that of a half-king realm sea demon. But this guy is only a peak-level intermediate venerable. This was already the 3rd hole that they had passed. When the two of them drilled into this hole again, they appeared on a swampland. Yes, this time it was really a swamp. Some places were green, bubbling swamps, and some places were grassy lands. As soon as the two of them came in, they found that there were several senses sweeping over. The two of them looked back, and Han Fei was slightly surprised. He knew 2 of them. Ji Chen from the Grand Purity Palace was here. In addition, there was another familiar face. This person seemed to be one of the 5 elements disciples of the Heaven of 5 Elements, but he was not familiar with him. In the battle for the Heavenly Fault Ancient Tree, Han Fei mainly fought against the Golden Crow Heaven. He guessed that the people of the Heaven of 5 Elements were just watching the show, so they didn't make a move. If Han Fei remembered correctly, this person seemed to be called Chen Hao of the 5 Elements. Apart from these 2 people, there were 2 half-monarch realm powerhouses protecting them by their sides. Ji Chen and Chen Hao of the 5 Elements naturally didn't know Han Fei's current appearance. However, they would never forget Xia Xiaochun. She was the favored one on Yi Qinglong's ship. Because Xia Xiaochun was so beautiful, she attracted everyone's attention. Therefore, it was difficult to forget her. At this moment, around the land where Ji Chen and Chen Hao of the 5 Elements were, a large number of puppet corpses were besieging them. Therefore, when they saw Han Fei and Chen Hao, their faces changed slightly. Ji Chen growled in a low voice, "You 4, keep attacking." Chen Hao of the 5 Elements understood what Ji Chen meant. He rose into the air with Ji Chen and faced Han Fei and Xia Xiaochun head-on. Xia Xiaochun reminded him, "Han Fei, there is no spiritual energy or energy in this space, and it seems to swallow energy. If you use spiritual fruits, I'm afraid it won't be enough if a battle breaks out." Han Fei said, "It doesn't matter. It's really a narrow road for enemies. I'm a little curious, how did they get ahead of us?" The hexagon starfish murmured, "You've been in the small world for 3 days." Han Fei glanced at the hexagon starfish and thought, "I don't know. Do I need you to tell me?" On the opposite side, Ji Chen was holding the azure dragon sword, which was trembling and faintly roaring. Han Fei raised his eyebrows. A sea-quelling bizarre treasure? Chen Hao of the 5 Elements weapons were also extraordinary. He held a shield in his left hand and a 5-color wheel in his right hand. The giant shield was undoubtedly an ultra-quality divine weapon. The 5-color wheel, on the other hand, seemed to be of a higher quality than an ultra-quality divine weapon. Han Fei guessed that it should be a low-quality sea-quelling bizarre treasure. Han Fei couldn't help licking the corner of his mouth. A venerable who could get a sea-quelling bizarre treasure must have a high status. Han Fei thought to himself, are they the big bad guys? I don't think so. Chen Hao of the Five Elements smiled. 2 peak-level venerables. Interesting. That girl's status in the mermaid clan must be high. Ji Chen said lightly, she must be a member of the royal family of the mermaids since she can board Yi Qinglong's ship. The royal blood flows in her body. Don't treat her as an ordinary peak-level venerable. Chen Hao of the Five Elements said, fellow Taoist Ji Chen, in that case, can you leave the royal girl to me? Ji Chen sneered in his heart. If you can take it, you can have a try. Swished, 2 daggers appeared in Xia Xiaochan's hands. With a swish, Xia Xiaochan disappeared without a trace. In the air, Xia Xiaochan's voice echoed, how dare you? Are people from the Avalon of 5 Elements so arrogant now? A hunter? Chen Hao of the 5 Elements saw that Xia Xiaochan had avoided his perception and disappeared. He couldn't help but frown. Now, there were also mermaids who were hunters of the human race? Ji Chen looked at Han Fei with a sword in his hand and snorted. You're a human being. How dare you hang out with the mermaids? Whose family are you from? Han Fei smiled creepily. I'll tell you when you're about to die. Second update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1768. Even in the Yin-Yang heaven, where there were internal and external troubles and an extreme shortage of manpower, Han Fei didn't even bat an eyelid when dealing with some human masters. Ji Chen deliberately helped the people of the Golden Crow Heaven under the Heavenly Fault ancient tree that day, trying to embarrass the Snow God's temple. How could Han Fei forget this? Although Han Fei wasn't a member of the Snow God's temple, at least he pretended to be a member of the Snow God's temple at that time. Bing Xue Chu Ling being bullied was no different from him being bullied. Besides, Han Fei didn't like the people he met in the Grand Purity Palace. At this moment, everyone was in a secret realm. Did Ji Chen want to suppress him with the so-called righteousness? Not only that, he even asked, whose family are you from? A question like that, how could Han Fei bear this? Han Fei's face turned cold. He stretched out his hand and a crack appeared in the void. He was going to kill Ji Chen. Since Ji Chen was able to become a genius disciple of the Sky Purity Palace, he was naturally not a fool. His strength was similarly terrifying. At the moment when Han Fei attacked, Ji Chen reacted very quickly. The sword rippled, and the sword intent soared into the sky. The aura of the Great Way was all integrated into the sword. Clang, the sword and the knife collided, golden spears exploded, and the sword chi and knife waves swept in all directions. After taking Han Fei's attack, Ji Chen's face changed slightly. How can the power be so strong without using the Tao? Unfortunately, Han Fei wouldn't answer his question. Han Fei pointed the embroidery needle in his hand, and Ji Chen instinctively felt that something was wrong. Seeing that there was no impact, he immediately condensed his soul power into a wall, trying to resist. Ji Chen's eyelids trembled, and blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. He was shocked. What a powerful soul attack. But Han Fei was also slightly surprised. This guy actually blocked his divine god stab? And he was prepared in advance? At the moment of life and death, Han Fei wasn't a pretentious person. If the first attack failed, there would be another one. He took out the embroidery needle not just for the divine god stab. Immediately after, the heavenly god thrust was unleashed with the heavenly gate. At the moment when Ji Chen's soul was injured, he certainly did something. He had discovered Han Fei's strength, but he had lost the upper hand. He wanted to get it back. The black hairpin on his head was cut off, and a shocking sword shadow, smooth and dazzling, stabbed at Han Fei with the power of the Great Path Han Fei's eyelids twitched, and he punched out the sacrificing punch without hesitation. At the moment when the sacrificing punch burst out, Han Fei had already foreseen the destruction of the fist mark. As expected, in just one move, the sword shadow actually pierced through the sacrificing punch from head to tail. Of course, piercing through the sacrificial punch was not without a price. the sword shadows were weakened, and Han Fei took out a huge shield. In an instant, a golden giant gathered in front of Han Fei. The supreme grade divine weapon shield instantly shone with a golden light. Ding, crack, bang, bang. All these decisions were made in the blink of an eye after Han Fei and Ji Chen met. Without actual combat experience, it was impossible to make such a decisive move. Even so, Han Fei was blasted away by the king's sword, and his body was directly blasted into the swamp, retreating more than 30 kilometers. Of course, Ji Chen was not much better. Although he blasted Han Fei back with the king's sword, he also took Han Fei's Heaven Gate attack head-on. Han Fei's attack had always been merciless. At the beginning, Han Fei used the power of the Great Path. In the first 10 seconds, he could completely exert the power of a king. Therefore, even in the face of a king's blow, Han Fei dared to take it head-on. At this time, Ji Chen was blasted back more than 200 kilometers with a single blow. The battle suit on his body was shattered, his arms were broken, and blood spurted wildly. Ji Chen was dumbfounded. This person is so domineering. He actually took a blow from a king of the Grand Purity Palace head-on and can still burst out such a powerful force? Who the hell is he? This time, among the heavenly talents of the 36 mysterious heavens, where is he? Wait! Ji Chen suddenly remembered that when Han Fei bombarded the king's sword just now, the fist mark that burst out. Why was it so similar to the punch that Holy Child Xuezhan burst out after getting the Heavenly Fault Star fruit on the top of the Heavenly Fault tree? At that time, in order to avoid the battle and let them know that the competition was over, Holy Child Xuezhan blasted the last punch at the Heavenly Fault Ancient Tree. However, that punch at that time was not as powerful as just now. Therefore, that punch from back then had been drawn into the void by him. Now that he thought about it, he was terrified. Could this person be? Han Fei spat out a mouthful of blood, then reached out and waved his hand, and the essence blood returned. Han Fei underestimated the blow of the king of the Grand Purity Palace. Not only did his sacrificing punch fail to block it, but the ultra-quality divine shield shrouded with invincible will was also cut open. In the end, the coiled turtle array on his body was also shattered. Even so, a trace of sword chi still entered his body. Fortunately, Han Fei's physique was strong, so he forcibly resisted this blow and was only slightly injured. However, judging from the power of this sword, Han Fei knew that the king of the Grand Purity Palace was extremely strong. This casual blow was already so strong. If it was a head-on confrontation, he would definitely be defeated. However, if he couldn't defeat the king, how could he be defeated by a half-king? Darling, are you okay? Han Fei nodded. I'm fine. Go on. At this moment, Xia Shaochan had just fought with Chen Hao of the 5 elements. Xia Shaochan was extremely fast in the first place, and even Han Fei could only block her attacks with a burst of super high speed. Now, with the sea-quelling bizarre treasure in her hand, she launched nearly 1,000 attacks in an instant. Chen Hao of the 5 elements ultra-quality divine shield, just like Han Fei's shield just now, was cut into pieces in the blink of an eye. Chen Hao of the 5 elements was dumbfounded. Fuck, what kind of person is this? Can't an ultra-quality divine weapon be used as a weapon? Forced, Chen Hao of the 5 elements stepped on a lotus flower, and in the array of the 5 elements, a 5-color wheel was rotating. That was his sea-quelling bizarre treasure, the 5 elements wheel. Originally, Chen Hao of the 5 elements hoped that he could win easily. However, as soon as they met, he was forced to defend. Both Chen Hao of the 5 elements and Ji Chen were very angry. 2 half-kings were miserably beaten by 2 peak-level venerables. Wouldn't it be shameful if such a thing spread out? Down below, the other half-king experts of the Grand Purity Palace and the Avalon of 5 elements all changed their expressions and directly gave up the original battle. The newcomers were too strong, and Ji Chen and Chen Hao of the 5 elements were very important figures of the Grand Purity Palace and the Avalon of 5 elements. Seeing that all the opponents had come out, Han Fei and Xia Shaochan almost made a decision at the same time. Got it. Xia Shaochan directly used the Heavenly Cicada transformation and the Heavenly Cicada wings. At the same time, she shouted in a low voice, "Fuse!" Hun, the giant arowana let out a low roar, which sounded like the roar of a true dragon. Everyone present, including Han Fei, felt dizzy. And Han Fei, like Xia Xiaochan, chose to fuse directly. At this moment, he didn't intend to let any of them go, so he might as well kill them all. That was good. All the treasures in the secret realm would be his. Different from the roar of the giant arowana, when Han Fei used the yin-yang divine eyes, Ji Xian immediately exclaimed, "How is it possible? Is this the yin-yang divine eyes? You're not from the snow god's temple. You're from the yin-yang heaven." As Ji Chen shouted these words, a jade slip shattered with a cracking sound. The surrounding void shook. This guy wanted to run immediately. Half of his body had already entered the void. Han Fei didn't expect that this guy could escape from here. Seeing that it was too late to stop him, a black mist suddenly sealed the void. Han Fei immediately roared and attacked Ji Xian's head with the 100 Beasts' Soul Devourer. Then, he attacked again with the Heaven Gate Knock. "Don't you dare hurt the heavenly talent of the Grand Purity Palace." Han Fei was about to stab Ji Xian to death with his spear, but the half-king took the initiative to attack with his spear. Bam! This person wasn't as strong as Ji Chen. Han Fei's Heaven Gate Knock carried the power of a king. How could he resist it? The next moment, the man exploded. Han Fei pointed again, and the heavenly god's spike hit the head of another half-king, and the fist mark in his hand rumbled. When Ji Chen woke up from the shock, the first thing he saw was that Han Fei blew up the half-king powerhouse he brought with a punch. Ji Chen roared, "Grand Pure Blue Dragon Sword." At this moment, Ji Chen only lost for a moment. When he realized how terrifying the enemy was, Ji Chen wanted to make up for this moment. Unfortunately, Han Fei didn't give him this opportunity. At this moment, two half-kings blocked Han Fei and won a chance for Ji Chen. Since he couldn't escape, he might as well take a gamble. Ji Chen regained the upper hand. The azure dragon sword in his hand rose into the air with a hint of swordsmanship. It seemed that the power of this sword could penetrate everything in front of him. In addition to this sword, two green jade bracelets on Ji Chen's wrists also rose. "Shoot, you have a lot of tricks." Ji Chen's 3 consecutive strikes were comparable to the strikes of 3 kings in a row. Han Fei thought to himself, "My identity has been exposed. Do you think I can let you run away?" On the other side, Xia Xiaochan let out a cry, and Han Fei directly rushed into the storm-like bombardment. Boom! The pressure of a half-king instantly overwhelmed the entire battlefield. The skeleton monsters nearby were all crushed to pieces. Xia Xiaochan had already assassinated a half-king and was attacking Chen Hao of the 5 elements. Both of them were sent flying at the same time. On the other side, under the bombardment of 3 times, this world seemed to be frozen in Han Fei's eyes. Han Fei's figure shuttled between the strong and the weak of the attacks, slightly blocked the attack of a king with 2 big shields, took Ji Chen's sword head-on, and stabbed one hand into his chest. Pooh! Ji Chen was horrified. He felt that his soul was being occupied, and his head was buzzing. Han Fei grinned. "I'll keep your sea-quelling bizarre treasure for you." Third up, please get a monthly vote. End of this chapter. Chapter 1769. Han Fei had to admit that Ji Chen was indeed very strong. He had been in the Pioneer Sea realm the whole time, and it took him 5 minutes to defeat this person. Although the 2 of them blocked him twice during this period, Ji Chen's hysterical outburst at the end hurt him. Although the sword didn't penetrate Han Fei's body, it still channeled a lot of sword chi into Han Fei's body. Han Fei thought to himself, "It seems that I'm not completely invincible in the venerable realm. When I return to the half-king level and continue to push my strength to the peak, I can truly become the strongest person in the chaotic ocean realm." As soon as he finished, Han Fei turned around and saw 7 or 8 Xia Zioakans in the sky. Their attacks were like a storm, continuous and incessant. Han Fei could even sense that the power of each of Xia Xiaochan's attacks was at least in the half-king level. Pooh, pooh, pooh. Chen Hao of the 5 elements also wanted to escape. However, he found that his 5 elements escape technique didn't work in this place. Chen Hao of the Five Elements saw that his half-king was crazily slaughtered by Xia Shaochan. The heavenly silkworm wings, like sharp blades, cut the half-king's armor into pieces. Chen Hao of the Five Stars said, "Guys, you've been fighting as soon as you arrived. Have you checked your surroundings? This space has been sealed, and it's devouring our energy and vitality. I tried just now, but I couldn't escape at all. Instead of fighting to the death, why don't we find a way to get out together? Only by surviving can we have a chance to fight." At this moment, Chen Hao of the Five Elements only felt that his blood was freezing. He held back his arrogance and said those words humbly. Otherwise, he wouldn't have bullied the two new peak-level venerables with Jichen just now. Chen Hao of the Five Elements was extremely puzzled. Where the hell did these two super-strong masters come from? What did Jichen mean just now? "You're not from the Snow God's temple, you're from the Yin-Yang heaven?" Then he wanted to escape? Chen Hao of the Five Elements was really shocked. Chen Hao of the Five Elements reacted very quickly. It was impossible for these prodigies to not know about the history of the 36 Xuantians. He glanced at Jichen, who looked like a zombie with a big hole in his chest. But a hole wasn't enough to kill him. He was obviously being controlled. Snow God Palace? There was only one person in the Snow God Palace who could be so powerful, and that was Holy Child Xuezhan. Could this person be Xuezhan? He took off his mask? The more Chen Hao thought about it, the more he felt his scalp go numb. Not to mention Holy Child Xuezhan's strength. The problem is, he doesn't seem to be from the Snow God Palace, but the Yin-Yang Heaven? The immortal palace that had disappeared for 80,000 years? Han Fei sneered. The battle has already begun. It doesn't matter whether I can get out or not. What matters is that you die first. Cicada, 7 or 8 Xia Shaochan merged into one, and the heavenly cicada wings on her back turned into a transparent cicada wing, which flew toward Chen Hao's 5 elemental grand formation like a storm of needles. Ding ding ding. Dang dang dang. Although Chen Hao was a member of the 5 elements and a disciple of a king, he was only a half-king after all. It was hard enough for him to face Xia Shaochan alone. He had a sea-quelling bizarre treasure, and so did Xia Shaochan. He had a powerful spiritual beast, and Xia Shaochan had too. He was a disciple of a king, and Xia Shaochan was a royal mermaid. And this was just Xia Shaochan, not to mention Xuezhan, whose identity was unknown. Even Jichen couldn't hold on for more than a few seconds. Now it was impossible for him to hold on with his 5 elements formation. Around them, a large number of puppet corpses were rushing to Han Fei and Xia Shaochan, intending to fight. However, neither Xia Shaochan nor Han Fei cared about these puppets at all. The puppets had no consciousness anyway, so they couldn't catch them even if they wanted to. Han Fei was about to take action, when Xia Shaochan stretched out her hand and smashed the hexagon starfish into the 5 elements formation. Not only Han Fei, but Chen Hao of the 5 elements was also stunned by this scene. Chen Hao was speechless. "I can't beat you too, but you're using an intermediate-level venerable starfish to annoy me?" The hexagon starfish also screamed, "Han Fei, help me. I'm not a formation-breaking machine." Chen Hao was taken aback. Han Fei? Han Fei? He was too familiar with this name. The death of the 5 elements disciple was caused by Han Fei. This big starfish was called Han Fei? Could it be Han Fei of the Avengers? However, this matter was horrifying. Han Fei was Xuezhan? Xuezhan gave Ran Yi to Han Fei? And Jichen mentioned the Yin-Yang heaven just now? Hiss, Chen Hao of the 5 elements sucked in a breath of cold air. He couldn't help but think of a top divine technique of the Yin-Yang heaven, known as the Gemini divine technique, which was known as the best escape technique in the 36 heavens. So, Saint Child Xuezhan and Han Fei of the Avengers were the same person? So, this Han Fei in front of him was the current palace master of the Yin-Yang heaven? All this relationship appeared in Chen Hao's mind in an instant. It turned out that the current palace master of the Yin-Yang heaven wanted to deal with him? No wonder he killed me as soon as he came up. No wonder Han Fei wanted to establish the Avengers. He came back for revenge. Chen Hao of the 5 elements wanted to kill the hexagon starfish with the 5 elements reversal array. Of course, The moment the hexagon starfish approached the 5 elements reversal array, the array drilled into the hexagon starfish's body. However, the 5 elements reversal array failed. The hexagon starfish muttered, "Fortunately, I have awakened the formation swallowing divine technique. Otherwise, it would be too dangerous." Han Fei seized the opportunity and blasted out the heavenly god stab. Immediately afterward, he launched the 100 Beasts soul-suppressing roar, intending to directly shock this person's soul. Xia Xiaochan was a natural hunter, and after awakening the heavenly cicada, she was even more elusive. Han Fei only saw a sharp ray of light sweep past Chenhao's body. Crack, crack, crack. At this moment, Chenhao seemed to have turned into a stone and was cut by Xia Xiaochan. Hum, hum, hum. Immediately afterward, 5 figures appeared, respectively in the colors of the 5 elements. Chenhao shouted angrily, "Do you want to force me to die with you? Fine, even if you are peerless heavenly talents, so what?" Explode. The hexagon starfish's reaction was very fast. With a swish, the 6-gate array was opened. Han Fei's reaction was the same, and the mountains and rivers phantom appeared. At this moment, Chenhao directly detonated all the energy in his sun-moon shell, which was crazy. Xia Xiaochan exclaimed, "Is he crazy?" The hexagon starfish muttered, "Even if I give it to you, you will still be crazy." Seeing the mountains and rivers phantom appear, Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish knew that they would be safe after entering the small world. No matter how Chenhao exploded, it wouldn't affect them. And Han Fei's action of stepping on the coiled turtle array puzzled the two of them. At the moment when the 6-gate array was about to collapse, Han Fei smiled at Xia Xiaochan. "Wait for me for a while." Rumble. Han Fei didn't follow Xia Xiaochan into the sea-quelling painting. This was not the yin-yang heaven. Since he had done something, he had to eliminate the root of the problem. Even if Chenhao detonated all the resources he had, so what? Did this mean that he would definitely die? Only if Han Fei personally confirmed that he had died could he be considered dead. For example, this Ji Chen was controlled by the void lines, which could guarantee that he would definitely die. Of course, the premise was that Ji Chen could survive such a violent explosive force. Han Fei quickly carved one small defense array after another with Taoist pattern lines. At the moment when the 6-gate array disappeared, 50 or 60 defense arrays were broken in a row. Han Fei also took out 2 giant shields and placed them in front of him. Even so, Han Fei still underestimated the explosion of the massive resources. At this time, Han Fei finally realized the terrifying power when he detonated the White Shell Kingdom. Those people were far away, so he was fine. He was at the center of the explosion. If it weren't for the fact that his physique was extremely strong and he was confident that he could withstand it. Otherwise, Han Fei wouldn't have stayed. After a while, when Han Fei climbed up from the ruins, there were no puppets here. They were basically blown up by Chenhao of the 5 elements. The swamps within hundreds of kilometers nearby were also blown up. A super huge pit was blown up on the spot. The 2 giant shields in Han Fei's hands now only had a handle left. And the battle suit on Han Fei's body was in tatters. Han Fei couldn't help shaking his head. No, the ultra-quality divine weapons with unsealed spirits are not enough. It seems that I have to continue to improve my refining skills. After a while, when the power of the explosion detonated and there was only the aftermath left in the space, Han Fei summoned Little White to explore the ruins. "Daughter, look around and see if there's any trace of that person's aura." However, before he could finish his sentence, Whitey charged into a sea of fire. "Dad, it's inside." Han Fei sneered. "I knew it. You're really bold. Do you think you can deceive everyone by doing this?" Since Little White had found the place, Chenhao of the 5 elements naturally couldn't escape. Soon, Han Fei pulled out a ball of fire from the sea of fire. The ball of fire was twisting crazily and screaming in horror, "Let me go. The Avalon of 5 elements is willing to pay the price for this. We actually have no grudge against each other." Controlling the void lines, Han Fei sneered. "Do you really think you're a piece of cake? Do you think you're worth a lot of money?" After killing Chenhao of the 5 elements, Han Fei glanced at Ji Qin, who had been blown up with only broken limbs, and thought to himself, this guy is quite tough. The illusion of mountains and rivers reappeared, and Han Fei was about to release Xia Xiaochan and Mr. Hexagon Starfish. However, there was a flash of light and shadow. Clang, clang, cling. In an instant, Han Fei was slashed 700 or 800 times, and his stomach was stabbed from his belly button to his tailbone. Hey, let's talk nicely. Xia Xiaochan's eyes were red and her face was full of anger. Talk nicely? I told you to talk nicely. Do you think you're not afraid of anything just because you're a body practitioner? How dare you stay outside alone? How dare you leave me behind? Wow, don't leave me behind in the future. Xia Xiaochan immediately burst into tears, as aggrieved as a little wife who had been bullied. Han Fei's heart tightened and he quickly hugged her. Good girl, don't cry. No, I can't leave you behind in the future. Chapter 1770. Under Han Fei's repeated reassurance, Xia Xiaochan put away her dagger. Han Fei hurriedly covered his stomach, thinking, thank God I'm a body-tempering cultivator. Otherwise, he would have become a sieve in just a few minutes with 3 knives and 6 holes. Of course, Xia Xiaochan didn't really stab him. The power of the first few attacks was only that of an intermediate venerable. Then she found that Han Fei was quite durable. So she kept increasing the strength and didn't stop until he was at the peak level of the venerable realm. Xia Xiaochan was also speechless. Did this guy eat heaven and earth black iron to transform him? How did he manage to cultivate his physique to this level? The hexagon starfish seemed to have been used to this scene and didn't take it seriously at all. It was still exclaiming, what a powerful explosion. Even such a terrifying explosion didn't cause any problems in this space. Can we still get out? Han Fei didn't know how to answer the hexagon starfish's question. This space was indeed absorbing the energy in their bodies. Chen Hao and the others had been here for a long time, so they came to the conclusion that vitality would be swallowed here. Han Fei had experienced such a situation, that was, after Xia Xiaochan was taken away by Chen Huangdian, he was resurrected, and on the way back to the 10,000 Demon Valley with Yu Ji, he encountered the fateful holy grass. Now, although the situation was the same, the environment was different. This space was more than 2,000 kilometers wide. Earlier, Ji Qin and Chen Hao were fighting with the puppets here. The question was, where did the puppets come from? Han Fei's nautical panorama could still be used, but he was a little thin now, so he'd better recover to his peak state. Han Fei pondered. Anyway, there was still a long time before the 1-month deadline. Now, it was only the 4th day. He could stay in the sea quelling painting for 1 more day. He could also spend 1 more day on his honeymoon. Han Fei said grumpily, you're the only one who's afraid of death. We're just decorations, aren't we? You haven't found the treasure yet, and you want to leave? Xia Xiaochan looked around. Are there any treasures here? Han Fei was a little guilty. Anyway, we're already here. Don't panic. Let me cure this Ji Qin first. Before Xia Xiaochan said anything, Master Hexagon exclaimed, why are you punishing him? 1 look and I can tell he's not a good person. Let him sleep here. Han Fei was exasperated by the hexagon starfish. You know nothing but fear. Han Fei looked at Xia Xiaochan and said, wait and see. Han Fei raised his hands, and the heavenly opening magically shone down, only to see that the broken limbs on Ji Chen's body were growing rapidly. This scene made Luo Xiaobai and Hexagon Starfish widen their eyes. Last time, Xia Xiaochan was the one being treated. This time, watching Han Fei heal others, he felt that this healing technique was too powerful. He was almost dying, but he was saved by Han Fei. Han Fei immediately consumed 200 years of vitality. For Han Fei now, it was just a drizzle. He didn't know how much life force he had absorbed from this hunt. He probably wouldn't die for 10,000 years even if he lay in his coffin right now. Seeing that Ji Chen had recovered, while Xia Xiaochan and Hexagon Starfish were puzzled, Han Fei took out the Tao-devouring Bug King he had just obtained. Xia Xiaochan couldn't help but feel disgusted. What is this bug doing? In fact, not only Xia Xiaochan was disgusted, but Han Fei could also feel Ji Chen's resistance. He was a peerless heavenly talent of the Grand Purity Palace. Didn't he dislike it? Han Fei controlled Ji Chen to open his mouth, and then let the Tao-devouring Bug King drill into Ji Chen's mouth. Xia Xiaochan felt her blood freeze. Quang Quang is more suitable to do this. It doesn't matter what his invincible big black hole absorbs. But feeding bugs to a living person? That's hard to accept. The hexagon starfish's tentacles were all scratching, thinking, that's horrible. Han Fei is simply too horrible. As the saying goes, you can kill someone easily, but this guy didn't let them die and even fed them bugs. That's a bit disgusting. Seeing Xia Xiaochan and hexagon starfish's reaction, Han Fei said angrily, "What do you know? You'll know in a moment. Don't be fooled by the fact that this insect can't do anything and is very fragile. But once it's parasitized, it'll be horrible." Han Fei perceived Ji Chen's soul through the void lines and had a particularly big reaction. However, when the Tao-devouring Bug King entered Ji Chen's mouth, it turned into a weird liquid-like thing and drilled directly into Ji Chen's brain. After only about 10 minutes, Han Fei sensed that the Tao-devouring Bug King had dissolved in Ji Chen's brain. Gudu! Han Fei couldn't help but swallow. He thought that the Tao-devouring Bug King just wanted to make a nest in Ji Chen's brain, but it actually wanted his whole brain. Ji Chen suddenly opened his eyes, and his body was slightly stiff. Based on the connection between Han Fei and the Tao-devouring Bug King, he knew that the parasitization had been completed at this moment. He quietly withdrew the void lines. Ji Chen was motionless and his eyes were dull. Han Fei said, "Can you talk?" Seeing that Ji Chen didn't respond, Han Fei said again, "Let me show you my best swordsmanship." Swish. Ji Chen held the Azure Dragon Sword in his hand and slashed out 2,000 miles with a single slash. A long ravine was left on the ground, which was already in ruins. Xia Xiaoya said in surprise, Has he become a puppet?" Han Fei shrugged. "Yes. I told you that this bug is very powerful. Although it is very weak, it can parasitize people's brains. It can even control kings, not to mention half-kings." Hiss! The hexagon starfish shivered all over. Han Fei was too terrifying. It would rather sleep in the royal family of mermaids, which was much more comfortable than traveling with Han Fei. Xia Xiaochan asked in surprise, "Can he exert 100% of his strength?" Han Fei nodded. "Theoretically, I'll keep this sea-quelling bizarre sword in his hands for now. Since Ji Chen is a top heavenly talent in the Grand Purity Palace, he is certainly not weak. Plus, with the sea-quelling bizarre treasure, ordinary half-kings are no match for him at all. He can definitely be regarded as a big fighter." Xia Xiaochan said, "But I don't want bugs. Why do I need so many bodyguards? I can run fast. If it weren't for the pioneer sea state experts, I would have run away long ago. None of them can catch me." Han Fei thought, that's true. Judging from the speed of the heavenly silkworm transformation, Han Fei knew that it was so fast that he couldn't even catch up with it. It seemed that it was good to have wings. Unfortunately, his phantom glass wings had long been absorbed by his body. Although Luo Yunyang could form wings now, it wasn't like the sky silkworm transformation, which could increase his strength in all aspects. Han Fei flipped his hand, and 6 sun moon shells appeared in his hand. Han Fei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. There's not even a key to the Imperial Palace. It seems that their goal is very clear, which is to come directly to this Whale Valley and haven't had time to explore other places. Xia Xiaochan had no interest in resources now. She had seen a lot of good things. However, the battle in the Dead Man Valley ended in an unexpected way. Xia Xiaochan was greatly relieved, but thinking that there were still people from the investiture of God's heaven outside, she immediately said, "Let's hurry up and let Little White come out to look for treasures." Han Fei nodded, called Little Black and Little White out, and hurriedly said, "Daughter, look, is there any treasure here?" Little White swam to the rock wall on the right without hesitation, but when Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan followed him to the edge of the rock wall, Little White swam in another direction. After swimming through the entire space, Little White returned to the center, looking up and then down from time to time. Han Fei couldn't help but say, "Daughter, Did you find it or not? Han Fei thought to himself, I didn't find it, so I used the nautical panorama. However, Little White said, Dad, it seems to be right below us. And it can move. But I don't know how the thing below can come out. Han Fei frowned. Under our feet? Even Little White said that he couldn't find the way. Han Fei didn't want to waste his time. So, Han Fei took out the nautical panorama. Crack, 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 the nautical panorama spun rapidly. However, when Han Fei saw the abnormal trajectory of the pointer, it seemed to be moving irregularly in this space like a broken compass. Thinking of something, Han Fei quickly shouted, Master Hexagon Starfish, can you seal the underground space? The Hexagon Starfish nodded. Probably. Listen to my command. You'll be trapped where I point my knife. Han Fei knew that the duration of the nautical panorama was limited, and it could only last 10 minutes at most. Therefore, as the nautical panorama spun, Han Fei controlled the infinity water and instantly stabbed the knife. In order to get out alive, the Hexagon Starfish worked hard. The starfish disappeared silently and reappeared silently. In the blink of an eye, its body became 100 meters in size. In the blink of an eye, that place was completely sealed. At this time, the nautical panorama began to tremble rapidly, scurrying around within a radius of 100 meters. The Hexagon Starfish was overjoyed. I can still shrink. The Hexagon Starfish quickly shrank from 100 meters in size to half a meter, forcibly controlling the underground thing. At this time, the infinity water drilled down frantically like a drill. Just like this, Han Fei drilled down for more than 20 kilometers before he took out a bead from inside. Just as Han Fei grabbed the bead, before he had time to look at it, he saw the surrounding air change with a hum. Immediately afterward, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan discovered that a gray aura instantly spread to the entire 2,000 kilometers. The next moment, Han Fei, Xia Xiaochan, and the Hexagon Starfish all retched, feeling that they were going to throw up. What was in this pool? It was so stinky that their souls were trembling. Chapter 1771. Han Fei would never have thought that one day his scalp would be numb, his soul would be shaken, and his eyes, nose, and mouth would bleed slightly. More importantly, even if he didn't breathe, the smell could be transmitted to his body through his skin and touched his soul. Han Fei felt that he would rather take the Poison King and have diarrhea than smell it. Xia Xiaochan and the Hexagon Starfish's situation was similar to Han Fei's. Because the stench was not a physical attack at all, but a special power that directly targeted the soul. 6-Gate Forbidden Area. The Hexagon Starfish couldn't bear the stench anymore, so he immediately used his ultimate move to seal the place where the three of them were. In this way, the stench couldn't continue to spread. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan retched again, and then looked at each other who was bleeding from their eyes, nose, and mouth, and then at the Hexagon Starfish, whose 6 big eyes were all bleeding, and looked at each other in shock. Han Fei was horrified. I didn't expect that the stench could be so bad that it could damage the soul. Xia Xiaochan said, Never smell this smell again. It's too smelly. What the hell did you do? The Hexagon Starfish said, I'm doomed. I survived so many bad guys, but I may die of the stench in the end. My reputation will be ruined. Han Fei wiped his nosebleed and then glanced at the bead in his hand. Looking at it, information popped up. Name, Sun Calming Bead. Introduction. A deep-sea behemoth has been absorbing all kinds of mutated creatures for a long time. After accumulating too much, it will form horrible filth. In order to prevent the filth from contaminating the body, the Sun Calming Bead can be refined with demonic energy to block the filth. Level C Expanding Realm Quality Ultra Quality Effect. It can suppress filth and keep the body flawless. Swallowable. Note, after swallowing, it can prevent the filth from invading and slowly remove the filth in the body. After reading this bead, Han Fei frowned. Why did it feel so weird? It was like the cave in the back mountain of the Thug Academy in the Blue Sea town, which had been filled with a stench for thousands of years. This bead was like a gate. As soon as the gate was opened, the stench would hit them. Seeing Han Fei's face turn green, Xia Xiaochan couldn't help but be nervous. What is this? Could it be an evil being? Han Fei shook his head slightly. Of course it's not evil. The weird air outside is evil. The effect of this bead was endless. It could dispel the impurities in the body. As long as we eat it? Hey, what's your reaction? When Han Fei said that he would eat it, Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish retreated to the edge of the domain, and the hexagon starfish's big eyes almost narrowed. One of them said forcefully, "Starfish's body is flawless. I don't need this." Fearing that Han Fei would give it to her, Xia Xiaochan said carefully, I'm also flawless. You can eat it if you want. Han Fei was amused. It's true that it stinks outside, but it's not stinky here. Ugh, how could women accept this? Even the hexagon starfish couldn't accept it. Han Fei grabbed the sun-calming pearl speechlessly, thinking to himself, you two don't know what's good for you. The treasure is right in front of you, but you can't wait to avoid it. It seems that you really don't have a chance with the treasure. Han Fei glanced at the sun-calming pearl and then at the gray mist-like stench outside. He made up his mind. How can you catch a tiger cub without entering the tiger's den? Immediately, Han Fei pinched his nose and stuffed the sun-calming pearl into his mouth. Ugh. Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish felt their blood freeze and almost collapsed on the spot. They didn't want to feel the stink again in their lives. Xia Xiaochan said, You're not allowed to kiss me for 3 days. Han Fei rolled his eyes speechlessly. Ignorant. In fact, Han Fei was also a little disgusted, but what could he do? He had to eat it anyway. He just had to put up with it for the time being. He would definitely forget about it in the future. After half an hour, Xia Xiaochan and hexagon starfish said almost at the same time, There's a stink. Han Fei? The hexagon starfish was horrified. Han Fei, you've become stinky. Xia Xiaochan exclaimed, There are impurities in your body that are being expelled. Han Fei looked down, only to find that on the surface of his skin, an extremely thin layer of gray matter was escaping. This time, Han Fei felt terrible. The introduction of the demon purification pot just now didn't say that he would become stinky. It just said that the sun-calming pearl would slowly expel the impurities in his body. Slowly? Han Fei was shocked. This word seemed a bit ambiguous. However, fortunately, the smell was not very stinky. After all, Han Fei was still at the peak level of the venerable realm, and his physique had been cultivated to an appalling level. Therefore, even if there were impurities in his body, it was only a small amount. But the sun-calming pearl had run into his dantian at this moment, accompanying his Dao seed. The two pearls rotated in his dantian. Han Fei knew that the sun-calming bead was starting to take effect. Han Fei glanced at Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish and decided to give up. Anyway, he had eaten the sun-calming bead, but he still had to find this treasure. Didn't it say that after eating it and suppressing it, he could avoid the invasion of filth? If he went out now, he wouldn't be able to smell the stench anymore, right? Han Fei said, Come on. You two stay here. I'll go see where the treasure of the Whale Valley is. It took us a lot of effort to come here. We can't get nothing. That would be a great loss. Xia Xiaochan asked in surprise, Did you eat the pearl to block the stench outside? Han Fei said, I told you that it is a treasure to suppress filth. Okay, now the danger should be gone. Otherwise, there would be too many barriers set up by this king. With that said, Han Fei appeared outside the seal of the hexagon starfish with a swish. When Han Fei stood in this stinky space again, he didn't hold his breath at first, but after inhaling a little bit, he immediately vomited. Seeing this scene, Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish were shocked. Xia Xiaochan said, You'd better come back. Let's wait for the stench to dissipate before going out. The hexagon starfish nodded. Let's go into the small world. Han Fei immediately held his breath, and when he no longer smelled the stench, he said to the two of them, I was just teasing you. You two are so scared. Xia Xiaochan breathed a sigh of relief and then immediately said angrily, Next time you scare me, I'll stab you to death. Han Fei. After the sun-calming pearl was taken away by Han Fei, this space was no longer so indestructible. At the place where Han Fei dug the sun-calming pearl just now, the ground near that place was cracking, and cracks were everywhere, revealing a space underground. Swished Han Fei drilled through the ground for more than 20 kilometers and appeared in the small world under his feet. Immediately, Han Fei was horrified. He saw a gray lake. This was the source of the stench. However, Han Fei had seen all kinds of mayors. As the ninth immortal master, how could he retreat in the face of a septic tank? With a thought, Han Fei took out a dozen sun-moon shells at once. These were all emptied sun-moon shells. Han Fei threw the sun-moon shells into the sun-moon shells and saw a massive amount of gray dirty liquid was pouring into the sun-moon shells. This jar took a total of 12 sun-moon shells to fill up the entire lake. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh with emotion. When the little fatty Chao Chiu was refining the Poison King, he was so high-spirited. The days when he swept across the level 3 fishery with the Poison King were so memorable. Now, this gray liquid was equivalent to a treasure like the Poison King. However, unlike the Poison King, this thing had a visible shape and color. People could tell at a glance that it was not a good thing. So, it depended on how he used it. Of course, this gray liquid was not the key. The key was that at the bottom of this gray liquid pool, there were a lot of treasures lying in a mess. Han Fei grabbed with one hand, and these treasures floated in the air. Among them, there were long swords, stone tablets, bricks, jade pots, small seals. All these items carried the Tao of the Imperial Palace. Han Fei counted carefully and found that there were as many as 67 items. But even so, Han Fei couldn't help but sigh in his heart. What did these kings rob in the Imperial Palace? They brought back a bunch of random things, but they didn't even bring back a few decent things. These 67 keys, plus the 14 keys he already had, made a total of 81 keys. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. This time, he had made a fortune. The Snow Maidens only wanted 20 keys, and Huang Jie, the myriad poison ancestor, also wanted to trade with him. Besides, after 32 years, the Imperial Palace will be explored. Can the Yin-Yang Heaven also become a force and participate in it? Although there were 81 keys now, some of them were things that he couldn't give up, such as the mystic yellow stone. Han Fei would definitely not exchange it with others. In addition to the treasures, there was a cave in the deepest part of the septic tank below. He didn't know if it was the exit or not. Of course, Han Fei was not in a hurry to go out. He would go out tomorrow. Anyway, he was not in a hurry. Chapter 1772. In the Sea-Quelling Painting. Han Fei came to Xia Shaochan and the hexagon starfish and showed them the harvest of this trip. Xia Shaochan was stunned. For a moment, Xia Shaochan wondered, hiding treasures in such a smelly place? What was that person thinking back then? According to the hexagon starfish, it must be because that person was so hunted down that he thought, if I can't get it, you can't get it either. So, he hid the treasures in that place. Master Hexagon Starfish's IQ had increased a lot since he entered the Venerable Realm. Sure enough, the Hexagon Starfish's idea was unanimously approved by Han Fei and Xia Shaochan on the spot. Of course, although Han Fei got a lot of treasures. However, on this day, neither Xia Shaochan nor the Hexagon Starfish was within 3 meters of Han Fei. Sleep? That's even more impossible. Xia Shaochan said proudly, when Han Fei doesn't stink, we can sleep together. Because Han Fei and Xia Shaochan had just met, they wanted to spend some time together, so they didn't introduce Nian and Xiao Sei to each other. The next day, after talking to Xia Shaochan, Han Fei stepped out of the Sea-Quelling Painting first. Han Fei silently thought about the direction of the exit. As it turned out, the nautical panorama pointed to the septic tank. Just as Han Fei and the others were looking for a way out, on the other side, a battle was also taking place. However, he discovered that this was a valley that was filled with gurgling blood-colored gas. In the valley, there was a demonic sound echoing. This sound was like a whimper from hell. In addition to being directly heard, its transmission method could also directly affect the soul. In the direction of the sound, there were many corpses of Half-King realm experts. These corpses were like walking corpses. Their souls had been lost and their eyes were empty, but the weapons in their hands were still intact, and their fighting style was quite familiar. There were more than 1,000 corpses of half-monarchs in this place. If Han Fei were here, he would be surprised. Why were there so many Half-King realm experts from the Azure Glass Palace, the Immeasurable Palace, the Sword God, and the Taishan Palace here? In addition, there was also a group of Half-King realm experts dressed in the costumes of the gods in Investiture Heaven. The 5 forces had a total of 15 people. However, at this moment, these 15 people were running like mad. He didn't know where he came from, but he ran all the way to this bloody canyon. Ring, at this time, a woman from the glazed sky shook a bell in her hand, her expression unsightly. Not good, there's no way out. Whoosh, 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 they saw a sword cultivator standing proudly with his back straight. Seeing the corpse of a half-monarch charging over, Xiao Chen's sword lit up. The light shone for 3,000 meters, and from a strange angle, the sword sliced the corpse in half. On the other hand, someone was drawing something on the fish skin while retreating. That person said, "Among the 3 perilous lands, the Soul Burial Valley is the most mysterious. When we came here, we only passed by a small pool of blood. If he hadn't been attracted by the bronze door after passing by the blood pool, he wouldn't have gotten lost. The problem was with the door. The space we are in may have been switched, or we may have entered some kind of unknown array." A tall, brawny man looked at the 6 cultivators of the Investiture of God's Heaven next door and said, "Song Kin, you have been drawing for a long time. It's useless to talk about these things. Isn't your Taishan Heaven said to have the essence of the 36 immortal palaces? Why didn't you learn the array of the 9 palace heaven?" This Song Kaiyuan was one of the leaders of the Taishan Heaven this time. Originally, there was also Mushui Sisi, but at this moment, she was not here. Thinking about it, they didn't put everyone into one perilous land. Song Kaiyuan said grumpily, "I am not a spirit gatherer. It is extremely difficult to enter the way of arrays, and ordinary people can't comprehend it. Although there are countless array diagrams in my head, you think too highly of me to break the array." At this moment, the sword cultivator of the Sword God Palace shouted in a low voice, "Li Kaiyan, help me." However, because they had 5 ways to escape, 6 half-monarch puppets suddenly caught up with them. Roar, the tall, brawny man shouted, "Fuse." Hum, an enormous crocodile instantly melted into the brawny man's body. 2 beams of red light burst out of his eyes, directly petrifying the 2 half-monarch puppets in midair. After that, Li Kaitian waved the long rod in his hand. The sea-quelling bizarre rod cut through the void with the momentum of splitting a mountain. He then shouted, "Immeasurable giant palm imprint." Li Kaitian had single-handedly killed 5 half-monarch corpses. If they were half-monarch realm masters with consciousness, Li Kaitian wouldn't have been able to kill them so easily even if his strength was doubled. Li Kaitian shouted, "Jian Hui, what are you doing? Do it." Ring, ring. A dim yellow light burst out in an instant, and the candlelight nailed a half-monarch puppet in midair. The next moment, a crisp voice shouted, "Glass merciful hand." In the void, countless slender hands appeared, looking soft and powerless. However, when he really started to slap the half-monarch's corpse, the 18 consecutive slaps shattered it into pieces. Li Kaitian heaved a sigh of relief. Sister Lu Ran is still the best. "Jian Hui, what are you doing?" The 3 sword cultivators from the Sword God Palace all held their swords and didn't come out. Jian Hui said, "Accumulate sword intent." Jian Hui's gaze swept over to the god's sealing heaven, which was not far away. There were only 6 people on their side, and they had only encountered 3 half-king corpses, which was much easier than their side. Li Kaitian followed Jian Hui's gaze and snorted coldly. "Son of a bitch, I hate people from God's Bane Heaven the most. If it weren't for the fact that they know God's descent, I would have killed them long ago." At the mention of the God's Descent art, the faces of the Immeasurable Glazed sect and the other 3 sects turned ugly. As one of the 13 skies of the inner domain, Godsbane Heaven was also a relatively low-profile immortal palace. However, there was one thing that was true. They could borrow the power of supreme experts. This technique was known as God's descent. Of course, the prerequisite was that they had to support and serve a supreme expert and establish a long-term loan contract. Outsiders didn't know the limitations and benefits of God's descent. Everyone only knew that using God's descent would multiply their strength, and they could even borrow a trace of the supreme expert's divine power. Originally, the 4 immeasurable immortal palaces weren't familiar with the other 13 skies of the inner domain. If they met outside, they might be polite to each other. However, in the secret realm, it was enough that they didn't fight to the death. If it weren't for the countless half-monarch corpse puppets chasing after them, the two sides would have already started fighting. On the Godsbane Heaven side, someone said in a low voice, "According to the cicadas, it should be nearby. It's impossible that there is no way out." Someone said, "Luckily, not everyone came in. Otherwise, it wouldn't be easy to get out alive after entering this realm." A few people looked in the direction of Li Kaitian's group, and the leader shouted coldly, "Although these people are difficult to deal with, their situation is worse than ours. All right, let's see if there is a way out." 100 breaths later, both groups of people were desperate. Li Kaitian and the others were frightened. Song Kaiyuan said unhurriedly, "Before, I only thought that the danger zones existed because the explorers weren't strong enough. I didn't expect that they really were. If we want to stay alive, we have to kill these 1,000 half-monarch corpse puppets. Otherwise, it's all in vain." "Just shut up." In the glazed sky, Lu Ran spat. "It shows that you're not good enough. We can't break the array, and we can't find the way out. You've led us into a dead end. You should learn from me in your next life. Don't idle around all day." Song Kaiyuan heaved a long sigh. He didn't have time to bicker with Lu Ran. Li Kaitian and Jian Hui couldn't hold on any longer. Song Kaiyuan only sighed faintly. He was also anxious. What to do? What to do? Bang! Right at this moment, everyone saw a big hole suddenly appear in the sky. A man and a woman, one black and one white, came out of the hole. "Huh!" Li Kaitian said, Someone. "It seems that there is a way out here." Song Kaiyuan hurriedly said, "Wait, why don't I remember these two among the 36 black heavens?" Before Song Kaiyuan could recall these two people, the black-clothed fat man shouted, "The Valley of the Living Dead, the black and white ghosts, come to the sea again. Money opens the way and resources buy lives. Transactions on site, no credit allowed." "Everyone?" Li Kaitian was speechless. "Brother, where are you from? There are thousands of half-monarch puppets outside. Do you still have time to rob them? Even if I give them to you, do you have the life to spend them?" Xia Xiaochan raised her twin knives. "Come here first. Why do you care if I have the life to spend them or not?" Han Fei found that neither of the two groups of people was going to pay the money. Looking at the more than 30 half-monarch corpses in front of them, he couldn't help but sneer. "If I don't show you the power of the black and white ghosts, you really don't know how high the sky is. Chilla." Han Fei grabbed with his hand, and a void crack appeared directly from the void. With a twist of the knife light, 7 corpses were slaughtered in a row. Xia Xiaochan's figure flashed, and everyone could only see her shadow flickering, and then 7 or 8 half-monarch corpses were chopped up. "This?" Song Kaiyuan gasped and said, "2 peak-level venerables. How could they do this?" Li Kaitian was also dumbfounded. Is their battle efficiency so high? These two must have hidden their strength. Jian Hui glanced sideways and looked at the two of them. He felt a sense of familiarity. However, before Song Kaiyuan and the others responded, the people of the investiture of God's heaven rushed over not far away. The strength of this group of people soared to the peak, and they were all half-monarchs. One of them said expressionlessly, "It's her." "Kill her." "Everyone?" Han Fei? Xia Xiaochan? Both Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan were speechless. They felt the vibration of the space and knew that someone was fighting, so they deliberately showed up in such a high-profile manner. "What? Isn't my way of showing up gorgeous enough? Why are there people who want to kill us as soon as they come up? When they took a closer look, weren't they from the investiture of God's heaven? Xia Shaochan was immediately angry. Investiture of God's heaven. Han Fei licked the corner of his mouth. But since they came to us, let's kill them first. Chapter 1773. The land of the Kinggrave was so big that Han Fei and Xia Shaochan didn't expect that they would meet people from the investiture heaven again before they left this dangerous place. Han Fei and Xia Shaochan, who had just been shouting slogans and threatening to rob them, immediately went out to greet them. They didn't care about the corpse of a half-king puppet at all. Han Fei's strength also rose to the peak in an instant, and the invincible will appeared on his body. Xia Shaochan was equally brutal. The giant arowana fused into her body, and an earth-shaking dragon roar, like a thunderclap, suddenly fell. On the opposite side, the half-king puppets of the investiture heaven were all half-king puppets, but they used the means of a king. Seeing that both Han Fei and Xia Shaochan were extraordinarily strong, the six of them used the six kings' strikes at the same time. Hiss! Song Kaiyuan immediately shouted, "Retreat! Retreat! Li Kai Tian, defend!" Li Kai Tian was not stupid. As a top heavenly talent of the boundless heaven, he knew that the situation was not good when he saw Song Kaiyuan, a knowledgeable guy, shouting to defend. At this point, sword regret burst out. All the sword intent he had accumulated, pierced through six half-king puppets, and then they immediately gathered together. Li Kai Tian stood in front of them, his eyes burning with raging flames, and the flames drifted like silk. Holding the rod with both hands, he stood on the ground, and the surrounding void seemed to be frozen. In an instant, everyone was wrapped in a transparent gelatinous circular shield. Han Fei's face turned green. Aren't these people too brutal? How could he use so many king-tier attacks at once? Han Fei shouted, "Six-gate array." Han Fei shouted, "Six-gate formation." Swish, 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 swish. In fact, the hexagon starfish was about to open the array without Han Fei's instruction. Having been in the mermaid royal family for so long, Master Hexagon Starfish was not a starfish that didn't know anything. It had seen the power of a king. The six-gate array soared into the sky in an instant, and Xia Shaochan shouted, "Idiot, come here." However, Han Fei roared, "It doesn't matter. Ghosts take my soul, and impermanence takes my life. If the king doesn't come, who can compete with us?" At that moment, Han Fei clenched his fist, and the great Tao of gravity condensed on his fist. On the fist mark, there was a series of arrays, and the invincible will was added. Before the fist mark was launched, the void exploded, and behind Han Fei, there was like a tornado, followed by thousands of knives. Gurgle, in the rear, Song Kaiyuan, who was protected in the array, exclaimed when he saw the six-gate array. That's the six-gate heaven defense array of the mysterious creature hexagon starfish. Not good. Legend has it that in the entire chaotic vast sea, there was only one hexagon starfish, and it lived in the Merman King city for a long time. That woman is a member of the merfolk royalty. The others were stunned. Mermaid royalty? It didn't have any characteristics of a mermaid. However, before they were surprised by the hexagon starfish, Song Kaiyuan continued to shout, "Oh my God! Who is this kid?" The void exploded before the fist energy was even released. This was the symbol of sea expansion. There was a chain of arrays on the tip of his fist. It was a gravity array. That formation speed. Hiss, is this person a human spirit gatherer? Wait, the gravity around this person is abnormal. Is he using gravity? Hiss, how is it possible? Golden light shines brightly. With me around, how can this person walk the path of invincibility? As a top heavenly talent of the Taishan heaven, Song Kaiyuan might not be the strongest in fighting, but when it came to knowledge, he was definitely the most knowledgeable one among all of them. In Song Kaiyuan's eyes, the moves Han Fei used were analyzed in an instant. Therefore, Song Kaiyuan's mouth was like a cannon. He rattled on and on and on until Li Kai Tian, Lu Ran, and the others were completely dumbfounded. Rumble, light shone for thousands of miles, dust was flying, and rocks were collapsing. Master Hexagon's 6-gate array, under such impact, had a few cracks. Song Kaiyuan and the others were actually very close to them. However, they had a large number of people, and with Li Kaitian's primordial seal, they naturally survived. Bam, bam, bam. Before the smoke and dust dispersed, in the dazzling light curtain, a cicada flapped its wings and chirped. Everyone only saw that in the field, the knife was like a stream of light, and the fists were breaking mountains. When the light curtain dispersed, Song Kaiyuan and the others all gasped. The guy called Fan Datong was holding the remains of his body with both hands, and his blood was soaring. And the mermaid woman was putting away her double blades. In front of her, a demi-king of the god-sealing heaven was riddled with holes. Gulp, Song Kaiyuan swallowed and said, "Listen to me, it's just a robbery, right? Give me money. These two people are invincible." Jian Hui frowned. When he was about to speak, Song Kaiyuan glared at him. "Shut up. Do you still want to practice swordsmanship?" At this moment, Han Fei and Xia Shaochan were full of murderous intent. One was tall and murderous. The other was petite and swift. This combination was simply amazing. Han Fei raised his hand, put up 2 fingers, and then the 10,000 knives return. At the same time, he also brought 6 sun moon shells. Han Fei put away the sun moon shells, and then slowly moved his eyes to Song Kaiyuan and the others. "Ah, money opens the way and resources buy lives. Everyone, have you made up your mind now?" Song Kaiyuan immediately said, "Brother Fan, as you know, we came to the land of King Grave to hunt for treasures. We can't bring a bunch of resources when we don't find any treasures. That's not realistic. The only valuable thing is the key to the Imperial Palace we found this time. Brother Fan, you should also be looking for this, right? How about this? Brother Fan, you can take all of our sun moon shells. All the keys to the Imperial Palace will belong to Brother Fan. What do you think?" Han Fei raised his eyebrows. "You're quite sensible." Song Kaiyuan and the others were about to show Han Fei the resources. However, not far away, those demi-king puppets came again. They were all dead people whose souls had been completely destroyed. Only their instincts were urging them to fight. They were not strong, but they were not weak either. Just now, only dozens of those who were close were crushed, and many were sent flying. Han Fei thought, "I don't need to kill these 4. As the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend." The Glaze Palace, the Immeasurable Palace, the Sword God, and the Grand Mystery Palace have always been at odds with each other in the 36 mysterious heavens. Therefore, the 4 of them formed a new small group. Only in this way would they be able to compete with the other immortal palaces. Han Fei felt that they might cross paths again in the future. Especially since he was going to the Glaze Sky next, it was not good to be ruthless now. Han Fei scanned with his perception and found that there was a blood pool here. Even further out, there was an incomparably huge whale head. Suddenly, Han Fei felt familiar. This kind of terrain pattern was a bit similar to the blood pool on the Forbidden Island in the cage. Han Fei was slightly taken aback, only to hear him snort coldly. "I, Black Ghost, am not a bloodthirsty person. I pay money to buy my life. What can a small array do to me? You guys block these puppets first and wait for me to break out of the void." Song Kaiyuan and the others were actually complaining in their hearts. "You're not a bloodthirsty person? You killed all the people of the investiture of God's heaven in one blow. You call this not bloodthirsty?" They didn't even think that Han Fei was so kind. Would he let them go out for free? But now, what could they do if they didn't obey? Song Kaiyuan said, "Li Kaiyan, you come and stop them. Sword Regret, your sword chi has dissipated and needs to be nourished for a while." When these people heard this, they immediately understood what Song Kaiyuan meant. Sword Regret had the strongest explosive power among them. His sword chi had dissipated? That was fake. He was really guarding against Han Fei. If he really had no other choice and had to take action, the regretful sword would be his final trump card. Han Fei didn't care about this because he didn't intend to kill these people at all. Han Fei frowned. He stretched out one hand and carved an array in the air. Complex array patterns emerged one after another, and soon a short-distance directional teleportation array was outlined. At this time, the nautical panorama confirmed that this array could be used to leave, and Han Fei secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Han Fei said, "You guys, give me the sun-moon shell." Song Kaiyuan's eyelids twitched wildly. So skillful in drawing arrays? He had actually seen the shadow of Jiugong Tian. Was he seeing things? At this moment, Song Kaiyuan and the others had to hand over the sun-moon shell. There was no other way but to trust Fan Datong. On one side was Fan Datong, and on the other side were the corpses of thousands of half-kings and the secret realm that they couldn't escape from. Song Kaiyuan felt that he had a higher chance of survival if he trusted Fan Datong. Han Fei and Xia Shaochan looked at each other, picked up the sun-moon shell, and entered the teleportation array without hesitation. As soon as the two people left, Lu Ran suddenly said, "Song can those two people be trusted? They are clearly robbers. How could they be so kind?" Song Kaiyuan said grumpily, "Let's go. Are we going to feed the puppets here? I know what I'm doing." Sword Regret said, "I have one more move, but I don't think I can kill him. At most, I can only seriously injure him." Song Kaiyuan said, "Don't think about it. This person's physique is unparalleled in this world. Didn't you see that the attacks of those kings just now didn't hurt him at all? Let's go. Outside. The hexagon starfish let out a long sigh of relief. We're finally out. We're finally safe. Here, the environment was complicated, and it was a rugged land of strange rocks. Xia Shaochan said in surprise, "This doesn't seem to be the city of the dead. This is the Soul Burial Valley, one of the 3 perilous places where kings died." Han Fei raised his eyebrows, quickly recalled, and was speechless. That's true. No wonder it's so dangerous. It turns out that the city of the dead and the Soul Burial Valley are connected. Swish, swish, swish. At this moment, Song Kaiyuan and the others also came out of the array one after another. They were all stunned, and Li Kaitian said in shock, "They really came out." Lu Ran was surprised. "It turns out that it's just a teleportation array." Sword Regret said, "Arrays are really broad and profound." "Humph," Han Fei snorted coldly. "Don't be envious. You can't learn it." Han Fei quickly glanced at the sun-moon shells of these people. As they said, there were not many good things inside, most of which were some resources and materials. However, Han Fei didn't expect that they found a total of 63 keys. Han Fei's eyes flashed. I wonder if these people have any more keys? However, Sword Regret had been holding back his anger. It was not appropriate for him to take action. What if he accidentally killed them? So, Han Fei took all the 9 sun-moon shells. With a flip of his hand, he threw out another 9 sun-moon shells. But Han Fei said leisurely, "I saved your lives and took your sun-moon shells, but they're useless to me. Since you don't even have storage tools on you, I'll give you 9 sun-moon shells." "You're welcome." Song Kaiyuan, everyone. Han Fei glanced at Xia Shaochan with satisfaction and said, "Let's go." Song Kaiyuan and the others looked at Han Fei and Xia Shaochan, who left with complicated expressions. In the void, his voice lingered, "Black and white ghosts, come to the sea again. Transactions on site, no credit allowed." Chapter 1774. Han Fei and Xia Shaochan finally appeared in the safe sea area. For Xia Shaochan, this was a great freedom. Currently, there were only a few dozen places that were worth exploring in the land of the fallen king. Judging from the so-called keys he got, Han Fei suspected that these things were dug out from the garbage dump in the Imperial Palace. They were all from the Imperial Palace. The things in the garbage dump could also be contaminated with the Tao of the Imperial Palace, couldn't they? The first thing Han Fei and Xia Shaochan did after coming out was not to study how much wealth they had. Didn't they care how many treasures they had now? These were of little significance to them. The reason why Han Fei wanted resources was to be prepared. Sometimes, resources just happened to be needed at the most unexpected times. What could he do? Besides, the resources Han Fei saved were not just for his own use. The chaotic ocean sea was rich in resources. Compared with the people of the Yin-Yang heaven, these people could be said to live a luxurious life. But the Yin-Yang heaven couldn't. No matter how many resources he plundered now, it couldn't be enough for the hundreds of millions of people of the Yin-Yang heaven to cultivate. Therefore, he had to continue to grab resources. What if he needed them? At this moment, Han Fei controlled the navigator and moved towards a place not far from the Soul Burial Valley. Of course, Han Fei's target was the remaining experts of the God's Bane Heaven. The entire God's Bane Heaven was here to kill Xia Xiaochan. Then, all the experts of the God's Bane Heaven had to die. These people might have some way to track Xia Xiaochan. That was why there were so many people in the Dead Man Valley and the Soul Burial Valley. As long as the experts of the God's Bane Heaven didn't die, Han Fei couldn't rest easy. Xia Xiaochan said, "When I was in the Mermaid Pirates, no one from the God's Bane Heaven came to kill me. But this time, they seem to know where I am. They followed me from the beginning." Han Fei said, "Maybe, when you were in the Mermaid Pirates, there was a king secretly following you. Or, they can sense your location at a short distance through bloodline factors. But if the distance is too far, they may not be able to feel it." This was what the old turtle had just told Han Fei. Han Fei felt that the second scenario was very likely. Just like how Whitey could track a specific enemy, as long as the other party didn't enter a place like a small world, it could definitely track them within a short distance. At the very least, it could be traced to the place where it disappeared. However, if it was too far, it wouldn't work. Xia Xiaochan said, "Now that I'm gone, Chen Huangdian will certainly search everywhere. Since I can find information about the primitive abyss, I don't think Chen Huangdian is an idiot. Back then, he took me away from there." Han Fei hadn't remembered it until Xia Xiaochan mentioned it. Han Fei asked, "When Chen Huangdian took you away, did he take the only exit of the Savage Abyss?" Xia Xiaochan, however, shook her head. "No, he set up an altar. Then I stood on the altar and appeared in the chaotic azure sea through the altar." Altar? Han Fei was immediately refreshed. "Are you suggesting that Chen Huangdian didn't directly bring you out of the primitive abyss? Then when you appeared in the chaotic azure sea, were there any super whirlpools around you?" Xia Xiaochan also shook her head. Han Fei was shocked. So, when Chen Huangdian said that he took Xia Xiaochan away, he simply teleported her away through an amazing teleportation altar. Moreover, the teleportation altar was directional. The problem was not the altar, but whether or not Chen Huangdian could enter the primitive abyss. After all, Chen Huangdian was only a projection back then. Although he did not know how he could throw so far. However, perhaps this was the unique talent of the strong. Xia Xiaochan asked, "Are you wondering if he can get in?" I did ask him about this, but he didn't answer. "Did you ask her directly?" Xia Xiaochan nodded. "When I was first brought back to the royal family of mermaids, I wanted to go back every day, so I often asked him these questions. He didn't answer even once." Xia Xiaochan shook her head. "He didn't say, but after I became a venerable, I tried to escape many times but failed. When I asked him again, he said that it was more dangerous than I thought. He said that if I wanted to go back, I might not even be able to go to the yin-yang sky." Han Fei narrowed his eyes slightly. "Interesting. Don't worry, I won't be reckless. Even if I have to meet him in the future, I won't let him capture me alive without any preparation." Han Fei was determined to return to the yin-yang sky, so he wouldn't fight Chen Huangdian head-on in the chaotic ocean. His life was very valuable at this moment. Little Fatty hadn't been brought back yet. Could he be resurrected if he died? It was hard to say. At the beginning, he had thought that it would be very easy to find someone. However, he was only halfway there, and he still had to wait patiently for the trial in the land of King Burial to end so that he could go to the glass sky. Now, according to Xia Xiaochan, it was confirmed that there was indeed an unknown danger in the primitive abyss. Of course, Han Fei was still not sure whether or not Chen Huangdian could really enter the yin-yang sky. Earlier, Han Fei learned from the witch pirates that people had entered the yin-yang sky more than once. Some kings had even gone in. But that was all hearsay. How much did they know? Han Fei didn't know. Han Fei thought of something. Girl, you said that the most reliable place in the chaotic ocean is the Martial Emperor City? Xia Xiaochan nodded. Although I'm not very sure, I got some information from the mermaid pirates. The Martial Emperor City is guarded by strong experts. Although it's like a black market, it has always been fair and just. At least, it's like this in the Martial Emperor City. Han Fei immediately made up his mind. After looking for her, he might have to go to the Martial Emperor City. At this moment, Han Fei subconsciously pinched his fingers and sensed that someone had appeared and was coming in his direction. Han Fei couldn't help but say, "Girl, they're here. They're from the investiture heaven." Xia Xiaochan looked at Han Fei in surprise. "How can you sense so far away?" While surprised, Xia Xiaochan had already drawn her dagger, ready to fight. Just walking out of the Soul Burial Valley wasn't enough. Only when all the people of the investiture heaven died could the two of them be truly free. A moment later, Han Fei said, 2 batches came. One came from the Soul Burial Valley in a slightly different direction. The other came from the City of the Dead. It seemed that they didn't know that the City of the Dead could communicate with the Soul Burial Valley. They didn't have absolute control over your position. So, they sent people from both sides. Otherwise, if they all went in, the consequences would be really unimaginable. Xia Xiaochan scoffed. Humph, this time they won't be able to go back alive. Han Fei sighed. Even though 16 people have died, there seem to be 13 people left. There are quite a few of them. If they all have the king's strike, it will be quite troublesome. Why don't we? Xia Xiaochan hesitated. Although these people from the investiture heaven were coming here, they were more or less confused. Did those who went in by themselves fail to find Xia Xiaochan, or did she escape? Why did Xia Xiaochan appear outside? However, the purpose of these people coming here was to hunt Xia Xiaochan. What imperial palace key? They had never thought about it. At this moment, Xia Xiaochan appeared. How could they let go of this opportunity? A moment later, before the 2 batches of people arrived, Xia Xiaochan pretended to be discovered and began to escape. However, her speed of escape was not fast. Even with the heavenly cicada's wings, there was still a residual smell of blood when she fled, which couldn't hide from these people's noses. Someone sneered. Seriously injured? She actually managed to escape? She is indeed a descendant of the heavenly cicada. It's a pity that she can't escape far. A moment later, when the people from the 2 sides of the investiture heaven gathered, both sides were quite surprised. Someone said in surprise, "You're here too?" Someone replied, "It seems that she came out from the Soul Burial Valley, but she didn't come out from the entrance. She should have come out from another exit. Therefore, neither side was able to kill it." Swish, swish, when these people were only a few thousand kilometers away from Xia Xiaochan, someone rushed thousands of kilometers away, trying to stop Xia Xiaochan. But Xia Xiaochan looked like she couldn't run anymore. Her battle suit was ragged, her face was pale, and her feet were a little unsteady. "Where are you going?" "You should know that you can't escape." "Ha! You shouldn't have come to participate in the trial of the King Grave." For a moment, Xia Xiaochan was tightly surrounded. With a hum, the 6-gate formation appeared, protecting Xia Xiaochan in it. Someone sneered. "Is there any point? A hexagon starfish that hasn't even reached the advanced venerable level, no matter how powerful its 6-gate heaven defense array is, how long can it resist? Attack!" However, when these people approached Xia Xiaochan, someone suddenly found that his big technique couldn't be performed. At this time, he saw a gray mist blowing over. In the mist, thousands of sharp blades slashed at them. "Pumph! It's just a small trick." Someone said subconsciously, "The color of this mist is wrong. Be careful, it's poisonous." Everyone was about to block it with a spiritual energy protective cover or tentatively touch it, but none of them was afraid. They thought, what kind of danger can shake so many people at once? However, the gray mist burst out around them. At some point, this gray substance also appeared on their bodies. As soon as the smell spread, these half-kings were immediately stunned. "What the hell is this smell? Poochie!" At this moment, A figure appeared out of thin air and pierced one of them with a stick. On the other side, a black mist directly crushed the flesh and blood of another half-king. Of course, it was Han Fei's black mist body. And Xia Shaochan burst out at the same time and rushed out of the six-gate formation. Xia Shaochan responded coldly, "This is the first time I respond to your pursuit. One day, I will slaughter everyone in the Yin family." Third update, asking for votes. Tomorrow is the last day of 2020. The first day is coming. It's the end of the month. Let's lose the double monthly votes in our hands. Moi, end of this chapter. Chapter 1775. The 13 people of the investiture heaven were smelled by the stench. Their souls trembled and they bled from their 7 orifices. It was a retching from their souls, as if there was shit stuck in their throats. Because of this retching, 3 demi-monarchs had fallen. The people of the investiture heaven were not stupid. They immediately shouted, "Retreat!" Unfortunately, there was a restrictive spell in this place. Han Fei was the kind of person who liked to fight fast, not to mention that Xia Shaochan was here. In just 2 seconds, in the stinky environment created by Han Fei, 4 more half-kings of the investiture heaven were hunted. After all, this was not a secret realm. If they wanted to escape, Han Fei couldn't do anything. However, Han Fei didn't panic. In this battle, 7 people died. There were only 6 people left in the investiture heaven. If he hunted them one by one, he could slaughter them all. 3 days later, the last person of the investiture heaven was hiding in a 3-star dangerous place. At this time, he knew that almost all the people of the investiture heaven must have died. Sure enough, it was not easy to hunt such a heavenly talent. This time, he had to make a long-term plan. He had to wait for a king to attack. It was impossible to hunt a half-king successfully. Bam! This person was sitting cross-legged to rest. Suddenly, the secret realm was blasted open, and he saw 2 people, one in black and one in white, who had found this place. This person was shocked. "How did you track my location?" Xia Shaochan asked back, "How did you track my location?" The man's face darkened. "Even if we are all wiped out this time, you can't escape. There will be a continuous stream of people hunting you until you die." Han Fei sneered. It seems that the investiture heaven has had enough of the 13 heavens of the inner area. Don't worry. In the future, I will even kill the kings of the investiture heaven. You can go first. Humph, you're bragging. This person jumped up. In an instant, his essence blood was burned out, and he launched a strike, trying to fight for the last chance. However, despair slowly appeared in the man's eyes. How could that man resist a strike from a king? Even after burning his essence blood, he was still no match for that man's strike. Bang! Amidst the billowing smoke and dust, Han Fei heaved a sigh of relief when the last person from God's Bane heaven perished. 29 half-kings have fallen. I want to see how many more half-kings this God's Bane heaven can bring out. Xia Shaochan heaved a long sigh of relief, as if a burden had been lifted from her mind. She was overjoyed and said, "What are we going to do next? Do we still need to look for the key to the Arch Palace?" "Look for it. Why not?" The fact that these keys could drive every force in the chaotic Azure Sea crazy meant one thing. This key was very valuable and rare. With each additional piece, they could send 1 more person to explore the Arch Palace. And 1 more person going means 1 more chance of becoming a king. The outside world. On the God-sealing heaven's ship, a middle-aged man had an ugly expression when he saw all the life tablets shatter. Could it be that the survivor's strength has reached the sea expansion realm? Speaking of which, after hunting all the people of the investiture heaven, although Han Fei and Xia Shaochan were going to continue to look for the key, it was obviously a little difficult for them to take the initiative to look for it. If he went to look for it himself, how could there be countless people who would help him find it easily and quickly? Of course, there was 1 more thing he had to do before hunting indiscriminately. While they were escaping, on the other side, the battle between the Snow God's Temple and the Golden Crow Heaven also broke out on a small scale. This was a personal grudge between the 2 clans. The cause was that the Snow God Palace had humiliated the Golden Crow Heaven. After that, he was ruthlessly humiliated once more in Sky Palace. If he couldn't get back at them, how could the Golden Crow Heaven be ranked fourth among the 36 profound heavens? As the saying goes, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. Although Han Fei defeated 3 people in a row at the Heavenly Fault Ancient Tree, but that was a battle between the top prodigies. Actually, no matter which clan it was, even if it was someone from the Sky Palace, the result would be the same. Isn't Ji Qin the supreme prodigy of the Supreme Purity Palace? Now he had become Han Fei's puppet. However, the people of the Golden Crow Heaven didn't realize the seriousness of this problem. They only felt that they had been humiliated, and they didn't know the real strength and temperament of the holy child Shui Zhan. At this moment, because of the advance order, many people of the Golden Crow Heaven were ordered to kill the people of the Snow God's Temple without mercy. Unfortunately, in the exploration of peak-level venerables, the probability of the 2 palaces meeting each other was not high. After all, there were more than 100 4-star danger zones. With so many forces, how could they meet each other so easily? However, it wasn't difficult to find Bingxue Chuling's team and the other 2 Half-King Realm powerhouses. Because there were only a dozen 5-star danger zones. If they searched one by one, they would probably meet them. 10 days after the opening of the Land of the King Grave. Outside one of the 5-star danger zones, Bingxue Chuling and Han Fei's projection clone were fighting and retreating. Opposite them was Tian Heng of the Golden Crow Heaven and 3 unknown Half-King Realm powerhouses. If there were only these 4 people, Han Fei and Bingxue Chuling wouldn't care at all. Even if Han Fei's body wasn't here, he couldn't be defeated by just 4 Half-King Realm powerhouses. Besides, Bingxue Chuling was the holy girl of the Snow God's Temple after all. After she recovered from her illness, she wasn't as weak as they thought. She wasn't the strongest person below the kings of the Snow God's Temple for nothing. Even if there was an opponent, it should be Xia Hai of the Golden Crow Heaven who could challenge Bingxue Chuling. But now, the reason why he was trapped was that Han Fei's current state was just a projection, and the other reason was that someone else was involved in this. Bingxue Chuling bellowed, "Hatred Heaven, the Snow God's Temple and the Berserk Corpse Heaven have always lived in harmony. We are the 13 outer heavens." "What do you mean?" On the other side, a gloomy young man sneered and looked at Bingxue Chuling. "Blame yourself for messing with the Golden Crow Heaven. Besides, I'm quite envious of the 2 sea-quelling bizarre treasures you have. Of course, what attracts me the most is your bodies. Holy boy and holy girl, one is a body-refining cultivator, and the other has an extreme Yin body. Once I refine you into a corpse puppet, Tieske." Bingxue Chuling looked awful. "Hatred Heaven, you're making trouble for the Berserk Corpse Heaven." "Ha! Bingxue Chuling, don't take things so seriously. Heavenly talents and immortal palaces. As long as you don't become a king, your death won't really affect the relationship between the immortal palaces. Do you think the Snow Girl cares about you? Is she willing to fight against the Berserk Corpse Heaven for you?" Han Fei fought against Tian Heng and the other 3 alone. The battle was earth-shattering. Bingxue Chuling's side was not much better. Hatred Heaven of the Berserk Corpse Heaven was a genius at refining corpses. Now, he was controlling 5 corpse puppets at the Half-King level. These were not ordinary corpse puppets. They were conscious corpses that had become Ba. Besides, these 5 corpses were a perfect combination. There were spirit gatherers, manipulators, soul warriors, hunters, and armorists. Each profession had a clear division of labor. And Hatred Heaven was controlling the puppets while waiting for an opportunity to take action. At this moment, Han Fei suddenly said, "Golden Crow Heaven, retreat now, and you won't die. Otherwise, in a moment even if you kneel down and beg, you won't have a chance to live." "Ha! Shui Zhan, you're about to die. Who do you want to scare?" Tian Heng laughed loudly and waved the thorn's fire ring in his hand all over the sky. The strange fire was dazzling and bombarding Han Fei with all its strength. He heard Tian Heng say, "I thought you were very strong. It turns out that you're not that strong. Under the Heavenly Fault Ancient Tree, I was just not familiar with your combat skills, so I lost to you. Today, I'll make you pay back 100 times for that humiliation. Han Fei shook his head slightly. Just now, he felt that his real body was approaching, so he dared to say that. After all, a projection was just a projection. It didn't have the power of the Great Way, nor the physique of the real body. It could only be said that this projection was very strong and was a heavenly talent among the half-king level. However, once he encountered a real heavenly talent, after a series of battles, the projection was just a projection and would collapse. When Han Fei split his projection, he didn't expect that he would chase someone for so long. At that time, Han Fei only thought that he would be able to return on the same day. It was already a miracle that a projection could hold on until now. Bam! Han Fei's clone projection was blasted back and smashed into the sea. Bingxue Chuling's face changed drastically. The snowmorn in her hand froze the void, and a long ice dragon rose up. The snowstorm swept at the surrounding 5 corpse puppets with the power of the Great Way. Bingxue Chuling wanted to help Han Fei, but Hatred Heavens suddenly took action. Clang, 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 a bell rang in Hatred Heaven's hand, and a blood-colored centipede emerged from the sea. A large cloud of red mist entangled the long ice dragon. Hatred Heaven said, "I also thought that Shui Zhan was very strong. I didn't expect that his real combat power was just like this. It turns out that he's just for show. I wonder how he won the Heavenly Fault Ancient Tree battle." The waves exploded, and Han Fei's projection launched a spear attack with all his strength, which collided with a pillar of flames and collapsed. Cough, cough, Han Fei's arms were burnt by the weird flames before he could pull them back. Ha! The Holy Child is just so... When Tianheng threw a fire spear and pierced through Han Fei's projection, Han Fei also looked at Tianheng with sympathy. How ignorant. I'm really scared. Bam! Han Fei's projection exploded. The next second, Tianheng was shocked. How is it possible? A clone? Is this a clone? Hiss. In an instant, all the attackers sucked in a mouthful of cold air. Hatred Heaven's face changed drastically. Are you kidding me? So, we've been chasing a doppelganger for a few days? First update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.